You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio, featuring the Interactive Interview, courtesy of WrestlingEpicenter.com.
Good afternoon, good evening to all of you all across the world. Good evening, you guys in Tempe, Arizona.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Yeah, it was at The Truman Show, a critically acclaimed movie not starring Josh Hartnett.
Which absolutely sucked, by the way.
Wasn't that bad.
Josh Hartnett absolutely sucks. Get the first word in since we've declined introducing Ben Benya behind the glass.
Hey, you're behind the glass. You come last.
I don't care.
Get in the back of the bus.
That's probably a good thing.
Okay.
We keep you in the little cage for good reason.
Ben Benya is with us as well.
We're going to throw it down later on.
Yes, we are.
Yes, exactly.
Residing tonight, I'm going to give you a random location. If you'd like to call in and tell me where, please don't, because we like our callers to be
Sensible.
well-versed and sensible.
Yes.
Tonight, I hail from Badge Street, USA.
Let's hear it.
I don't have it.
Cue it up.
I will find it.
That was bad. I didn't have you. I caught you off guard.
Give me 2 minutes, and you will have it.
We'll just say parts unknown for now.
2 minutes.
Funny story about that song. I actually showed up to a WWF house show in 1996 that I won free tickets for because I bought a pair of sneakers at Modell's. I kid you not. And I showed up, and there was Michael P.S. Hayes standing in front of the arena singing that song.
Interesting.
Well, he, of course, was paid to. He's like, I haven't sung this in a while, and he sings it.
And just randomly starts singing out of nowhere.
Well, he actually had a band set up and everything. It must have been like some kind of a fan access thing, but nobody really cared. Anyway.
Yeah, we all forgot about it. Unfortunately, no Francine Knight, because where's she at this evening?
She is gone on her way down. I almost said, well, never mind. She's on her way down.
Watch it.
She's on her way down to Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. If not, Florida, to do a WEW TV taping.
Newsflash.
What's that? Oh, boy.
Oh, man.
I have it.
What don't you have back there, honestly?
A life.
Someone buy Benny a drink, please. He needs one now.
All right,
Waiter.
Here's a little trick question for you guys. What is Jimmy Jam Garvin doing now?
Not a damn thing?
Rolling in his grave.
Actually, he is a pilot for Delta Airways.
Wow, that's cool. What a way to cut out of your career and keep your life going as being a pilot. And just remind you guys out there listening, if you want to go in, say some things, insult me or Benya. Not James, though.
You can insult me. You can insult me.
I insult James. I don't see why not.
No, why not? The phone number is 480-965-1260. 480 being the Arizona, Tempe area.
And don't forget what happens when someone says something insulting on the air.
Hassan?
Don't forget it. We might have it tonight. I might be nice.
Is Hassan somebody, or?
I might Hassan somebody. We're not sure yet.
Not sure yet.
All right. Also on the show tonight, we're going to be joined by a man who worked for the WWF for 11 years, a man who worked for WCW until the end of his career, and currently is working in Ring of Honor, none other than Gary Michael Cappetta. And for those of you who don't think this guy's a big name, I might have agreed with you before I did the interview. It's a hysterical interview. The guy has all the stories, and I think Missy Hyatt said it best on one of our weekend shows. If you just sit down and listen and observe quietly, you end up with more stories than the guys who actually are creating all these insane moments. It's just hysterical. You guys are going to want to hear it. I have the entire Sid Vicious, Arn Anderson scissors story in there.
Yes.
You guys get to hear that tonight. And, of course, we have a lot more stories on the version that will be put up later this week on WrestlingEpicenter.com. And speaking of WrestlingEpicenter.com, I'm not in the chat room right now. We're going to try to join you in the break. I hope everybody's out there having fun and behaving yourselves, and if you're not, I'm sure Patrick Kelly will kick you out.
That's what Patrick does, actually.
We've known Patrick to do several cool things, like Curse on Air.
One of them.
So it's going to be an interesting night, but, I know we're kind of stalling, avoiding the big issue.
Because it's really too big.
Something happened on Sunday night.
What happened?
What happened, Ben?
I believe it was the 22nd installment of Desperate Housewives.
That's right.
No, it was WrestleMania 22 live
from Chicago, Illinois.
From the Allstate Arena.
Funny story. I tried to call a guy to get an interview who's from Chicago, from the '85 Bears. I tried to call Steve Mongo McMichael. I'm not kidding.
That would have been awesome.
I called him. He's going to do it. He's just got to find out when. And he was going off on the WWE. He said, they told me not to come. Those sons of B-word. Yeah. And he was going crazy.
You are allowed to say just avoid doing it too much.
Oh, of course. I don't want to do anything to get myself thrown off the air.
That's something you wouldn't do, actually, like that. However,
okay,
let's jump right into the WWE WrestleMania 22 recap.
Mm-hmm.
Our first match, and that would be Carlito and Chris Masters versus Kane in the Big Show. And of course, how we just go straight to the close of this match. Winner and still tag team champions, Kane and Big Show. Your thoughts, James?
Well, first of all, they lost the titles the next night, which kind of surprised me. I think it could be good if they're turning Carlito face. What I found really confusing, though, is that I would think if it was in any other arena, Carlito would be the heel.
But why Chicago, though? Why
I don't understand what happened. I don't understand why Masters makes a mistake and Carlito gets cheered for beating the crap out of him.
Because Carlito is cool and has a cult following.
I think that could be why.
Also, one of our listeners who has a cult following of sorts, Patrick Kelly, on the line. Are you there, Patrick?
I am here. What's up?
Patrick,
Not
how's
a
it going?
great deal.
Are you manning the fort, man?
Yes, I am. I actually just banned Matt Hoover.
Really?
Wow.
What did he have to
was
say?
going by the name Hoover. I assume it was him. So.
What did he have to say? If you can watch
Apparently
yourself.
He thinks he's Chris, who does 3-count wrestling, was teasing him and said, "Oh yeah, I'll tape a show with you this weekend." So.
Oh, man, not gonna happen. And for those of you, this is kind of an inside joke, and I don't want to do that on the air, but
As we all say, inside jokes are a bad thing. Concerning the fact
yes, those of you in the chat room know what we're talking about. Other people, just ignore it. We're gonna get back to wrestling right now.
Yeah. Okay.
Finger
okay.
is on the button.
He's almost locked and ready to go. Patrick, did you catch WM22?
I did not see it live, but I watched the tape last night.
What'd you think overall?
Overall, yeah.
Personally, it was about 10 times better than I was expecting it to be. I was pleasantly surprised.
Seems to be the general thought right now. First match of the night was Big Show and Kane versus Masters and Carlito. Got to be honest, I thought it was a solid opener. I didn't understand the booking behind it because if they don't win the belts the first 20 times, I don't think this is the time. Yet the Spirit Squad upstages them and does it in one shot on Raw the following night. That was
it could
wonderful.
be a good thing for once,
I thought this was just a decent opener. I mean, it was exactly what the opening needed to be. It got the crowd involved. It did what it was supposed to do, and to be fair, Masters and Carlito, if you can't see it, have evolved as workers.
Especially Carlito.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
We're taking along the same line.
Yeah. And Carlito's really stepping onto his own. I really think he'd be a better cult favorite face, kind of like Christian was. I don't know if that's where they're going to go with it, but I think that would be good for him. I think that the chances of the fans cheering Carlito elsewhere are better than them cheering Masters.
Oh, by far.
Because I don't see Masters as a face. I just don't.
Masters doesn't have the personality at all.
Carlito could be Razor Ramon take two.
Oh, yeah. And that's
Easily.
exactly what he is, basically.
We have
With an apple replaced by a toothpick, you know?
Yeah, and the announcers, even though the segment kind of confused me on Raw last night of who the face was supposed to be, the announcers were trying to get him over as a face, so I assume that's where they're going to go.
The announcers need to just give into the crowd, especially, see, I know that they've got the earpiece in on them, so they're being told what to say, but it's most unfortunate when it comes to Joey Styles,
Oh.
who was the first person who would tell you, hey, the crowd's turning on them, so this is what's happening. This is, live. It's unfortunate to see someone like him, now that he's in the big company, having to bow out to that kind of crap. I mean, Carlito is the face. He could go and run Masters over with a car, and the crowd would love it. There are 3 people on Raw who are not supposed to be faces right now. Triple H, Mickey James, and Carlito. And all of them are the top 3 faces Raw has. Ironically.
sweet irony.
It is true. That's very much the case, and I think it's just because they're just so damn entertaining. Mickey James, while she's not the greatest worker in the world, is a good worker. She's just such an entertaining character that she transcends that, well, I'm crazy, so you're supposed to not like me.
And Triple H on Raw last night was actually pointing towards the crowd's sort of disliking of John Cena.
We'll get to that in just a
We'll
few
get to it
moments.
later,
Yeah.
but just
Oh, is that-
mentioning that.
Can we talk about the main event real quick?
No, let's get to that later.
We'll get to that in just a second. We
we got a
promise.
whole show going on here.
We promise,
Okay.
though, and I'm letting Ben know if he could just oblige me with me on this one. Can we keep him on until the main event? Because I think he has some interesting thoughts.
Ooh, that is going to be a long amount of time.
Ooh, we're going to try our
If you
best.
want, I could call back later.
Call back later, and I will answer the phone, and I will put you on for the main event. You do have first pick on this one, so anyone I have on, I will hang up on them.
Or, or politely
Or-
say,
You're not Patrick. Get the hell out of here. Sorry.
what's my name? My name is Ramon.
Damn it!
No.
Second match of
No
the
soup
night.
for you.
Moving on.
Sorry.
We've got Big Show and Kane. We've got Masters and Carlito. 4 solid workers in the opener.
Can we get past the opener?
Second match of the night.
I think we spent more time talking about it than it actually took to take place.
Well, we'll do the second match of the night, and then we'll go to break, and then we'll try and speed through the next 4 matches, because that's about what happened.
Okay.
Got to figure the first 2 matches nearly took up the entire first hour.
Yeah, they
In
did.
case you weren't aware of that. The second match of the night, the Money in the Bank ladder match. Very odd variety. Rob Van Dam. Yay. It's about time.
I does answer prayers.
It's about time for Van
Oh my
Dam.
God. The thing, not only did RVD win, but I know this made James happy, it made me very happy. Ric Flair did almost nothing in this match.
That made me happy.
Bump and he was done. I was like, yeah.
What the hell was with him? I'm leaving, but now I'm coming back.
He needs
And-
money.
No, I mean, the just leaving the ring, and then he comes back.
He left and came back. I think they're trying to sell him as the sympathetic face. But
Yeah, but he didn't win.
no.
There's no purpose in it whatsoever.
Tiddlywinks. I wouldn't have cared as long as he didn't win.
I think
I really don't care.
the one guy who surprised me with his performance in this match, and a lot of his performance was off-camera stuff you couldn't see, was Fit Finlay.
Yes.
And the reason is because Finlay was the guy holding the ladder in place most of the time for some of the crazy stuff Shelton Benjamin was doing. Shelton Benjamin, camera work, C- until the next night when we got to see the highlights of it, and it was like, oh wow, on this match, because we missed Van Dam coming off the top rope on Lashley, and we missed Shelton Benjamin. You just see out of the corner, it's like a flying cat, Benjamin leaping and attaching himself to the ladder.
He has Kelly.
And we were sitting there like, holy crap, that was cool.
That was cool. That was. A lot of people were saying it was better than last year's Money in the Bank. The spots were more innovative, but I thought last year's had better psychology. So, just a match, I'd say they're about equal.
It had a lot better psychology, but I think part of that might have been the fact that it was 6 guys from the same show.
And it was also Chris Benoit.
Yeah. These
Which,
guys,
right there, their psychology.
These were completely unrelated guys who were only linked together by a match, as were several matches on this card. But, you know, they didn't really have any build-up towards it. It was just, you're 3 guys, you're going to face 3 other guys, represent your brand, and win. And they tried to do it on Raw with a series of singles matches that, I hate to say this, got a little bit old. I mean, granted, you know, these matches were pretty good caliber for television, but then I look at, say, the SmackDown matches, which were all tag team matches, and the reason that they were good is because they featured 3 other fabulous workers who weren't even on WrestleMania's card, that being Tatanka, Buffalo, and Joey Mercury and Johnny Nitro, Eminem.
Oh, that's a
Tatanka.
slap to the face of the work they've done in the last year.
Yes,
were
and
left off this card.
for those of you who listen to our WrestleMania rebound or preview, I should say, the one team or one group of guys that we were complaining the most about not being on Mania was Eminem. And Eminem, and I'm also going to throw Melina in there because she's by far the best SmackDown diva that there is. I mean,
The only SmackDown diva, isn't she?
there is a couple, I think. Crystal, who just kind of showed up, and a couple other people.
Jillian Hall, too.
Jillian Hall. Yes.
Well, guys, I think it's time for a break.
I think it is, and something's burning in here.
Nah, it's just
It's upstairs.
It's upstairs.
We're not on. We're Wrestling Epicenter is hot, hot, hot.
And the Blaze is also hot as well, but we're not on fire.
That's why we're called the
Patrick,
Blaze.
we're gonna have to let you go, man. Call back later in. You do have first shot on the main event, so
Yes.
Excellent. I will do that.
keep
All
on
right,
listening.
keep it locked right here to the Blaze 1260 AM and the Wrestling Epicenter.
And welcome back to Wrestling Epicenter on the Blaze, 1260 AM. I'm Brendan Brooks, joined by Ben Benya, and of course the one and only James Walsh. Francine being off for the week.
Pearl River Rip Ahmed Johnson.
Oh, yes.
Thought I would throw that in there.
Where is Ahmed right now, James?
I believe he is in jail.
Okay.
I'm not kidding either.
Either in jail or dead.
Actually, he's not dead, but I know that he had legal troubles before he showed up in WCW, and I think he had them afterwards, so he might be in jail.
We have a caller on the line already, and you guys know him by a different name, JC. It is actually Chris Ferguson. Chris, are you with us?
Yes, I am. How you guys doing today?
Pretty good CF.
You play any poker today, Chris? I'm sorry.
well,
I'm sorry, man. I was in a poker tournament earlier today and actually won a $50 Best Buy Bucks gift certificate. So
All right.
Pretty sweet. What are you going to blow it on? Crack?
Sadly, yeah, probably. No, I think I'm probably gonna blow it on a DVD collection I don't need, so it's pretty cool. Maybe maybe the WrestleMania.
Yeah, I was
anthology.
thinking like that's about
Because
$50
I'm not going to spend
nowadays.
$80 for it. I'm not going to spend, that kind of money.
Is it more than 80?
For the whole thing, yes. I'm just going to buy maybe like, I don't know, what are some good ones? 1 through 4?
17.
1 through 4 was good.
17
your favorite.
through the end, probably.
Yeah.
No,
All right, man.
Last poker game I played was a $100 live tournament. I got third place.
Not bad, not bad.
Not bad. I've never played poker in my life.
Well, you're not missing. You are not really missing
You
much,
aren't
but
too much.
How about we have an Uno tournament? How do people feel about that?
I probably whoop some ass.
I'm officially not happy with that decree.
How about war?
War.
Okay, that's
War.
these are all
Then
games
again.
of odds and chance.
Yes.
Let's play a game with skill.
And what skill does it take to play poker?
It takes a lot of skill.
It's all
actually.
psychology.
It's all
I wore
psychology,
those
man.
Shawn Michaels heart glasses.
And they didn't take you seriously. They're like, who wears a heart sunglasses?
I'm going to put them on right now to exemplify.
From a distance, I thought he looked like Elton John. And I
Yes,
thought
people were expecting to start singing Benny and the Jets.
Wow, everything is red. Really,
Ooh.
really red.
he's seeing red.
All right, moving on. What was the third match of
Third
the
match
night?
was for the U.S. title bout, United States Championship match between JBL and Chris Benoit. Kind of an odd pairing here. You had the big guy and the technical master of the WWE, Chris Benoit.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, it was actually pretty good.
It turned out to be good. Not as good as I expected, but they really didn't give him enough time for it to be as good as expected. I loved the finish because I've always thought that the clothesline from hell should flow perfectly right into the crossface, and it did, and it was beautiful. And he just rolled him up right out of the crossface, and it's actually an inventive way to escape the crippler crossface.
I was
Yeah.
I was the person that moved the clothesline from hell was just so like it was like, oh damn.
Your thoughts, Chris?
Well, if you heard the Wrestling Roundtable, Wrestling Epicenter Roundtable for WrestleMania 22, that's a lot of W's.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you heard. I love Clash of Styles matches like this. Big man versus the technical wrestler. Bret Hart was a master at these. So I really liked the match when I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed the finish. It established JBL as the, well, I don't want to say.
You just got a song.
That's not nice.
No, I asked for that. Don't worry.
I'm sorry.
He asked for it, but you know.
He did ask for it, and I had to do it right then. I had to interject this. Weren't these two guys no more than a year and a half ago world title caliber?
Well, yeah, but
Yeah,
JBL
pretty
in
much.
particular a year ago was fighting for the world title. Now he's bumped down to U.S. Championship, a title which is never defended, a title which has no respect since Orlando Jordan had it. And Benoit, jobs. The problem is, I don't know how many people care. I thought JBL winning, yeah, okay, that's fine.
well,
but
the thing is though, having guys as big of a name as Chris Benoit and JBL holding the belt might bring it up to a little bit more prestige, and hopefully they will defend it a little bit more often. WWE has battled over the past, 5-6 years with secondary titles. At one point they had 37 belts and everybody had one. So
Hardcore title was the best.
It was.
And
24-hour rules, baby.
For about a year, the European title when it was Bulldog and Owen, and then
Then
that was and then Shawn.
Then Shawn, yeah.
It was some really entertaining stuff. Bulldog and Owen matches were great. But
yes, they were.
next match on the card, moving away from
But I
JBL
never
and
understood the
Chris Benoit.
concept behind the European title, because shouldn't you be European to hold it?
That's pretty much
I
true.
think it was more of a continental thing, maybe. But the next match on the card was, of course, the hardcore match, Mick Foley versus Edge, which had a
Wow.
spectacular finish.
Wow.
Yeah, spectacular finish. I love that.
Spectacular finish.
Wow. Holy crap. Edge. If Edge is not main eventing now, which he is, WWE.com posted today, Edge, Cena, Triple H, triple threat at Backlash. For the world title. Yeah, that
Well, he
Backlash
better
promo was
win.
stupid, by the way.
They'll already do
But
it.
anyway,
I'm going to get revenge.
I'm going to take back what's mine.
Even though I never lost it.
will come back with the title belt.
And, I just can't believe a lot of what I was watching in that match. Edge worked so hard.
You missed a joke there, by the way.
I heard the King Potato Head.
Good.
It's not a baby, it's a Mr. Potato Head.
Sorry.
No, I can't say enough about Edge's work in this match. Look at what Mick Foley does when he takes the thumbtack bump. Usually he's got shirts on, and he's also a big guy, so he has some padding with him.
Yep.
Edge took it unprotected.
Oh.
And you saw the shot of the thumbtacks in his spine. Being someone who's had a spinal tap in his life, let me tell you, metal and flesh in your back does not feel good.
These go to 11.
Sorry. Wrong spinal tap.
Yep.
And then Edge takes the fire table bump with his face.
That's hardcore, because
Not with his back, with his face.
which means he could have lost his goatee somehow, but he didn't.
Yeah.
That's just a random thought, but he didn't have saw me
Well,
in time.
yeah.
Bong.
Yeah, it's like the Gong Show, isn't it?
Kind of like the Gong Show in a way, but still.
Well, I thought it was a phenomenal match. I think these guys
Because-
both worked their hearts out.
I'm saying the three of us that week before were like, oh, hardcore match, it's gonna suck. Oh boy, three of us were freaking totally wrong on that one.
Yeah, it was a great match, and I think it was actually used in a way that propelled Edge back to where he needs to be.
Elk.
Elge.
Oh,
Well, at least I didn't call him the Edge.
thank
The
you.
Edge. Yes.
Chris,
Yeah.
your thoughts. This hardcore match, a lot of people saying it was the show's stealer, and Edge even used that following night on Raw, saying he stole the show. And does he have a justified claim, or what did you think of this match?
I thought it was great when Edge took the thumbtack bump. I know at least 4 people I showed the copy I have of this to it. They said Edge ain't taking it. Holy cow!
He took it.
I almost got us on there. Okay.
Wait, it was well, that wouldn't have been a song. That would have just been I'm hanging up. I'm sorry.
No problem.
It was just a jaw-dropping match in general. The next match on the card, though,
Jaw
well,
dropping in a different way.
it was just kind of funny, actually. Booker T and Sharmell versus the Boogeyman.
Watch yourself what you say about this one.
I will say this. I did really enjoy the backstage segment with Booker T. The only thing I didn't understand was, why is Ted DiBiase lipped in or leaked in or whatever word you're going to say as a freak? Lumped
Because of
in.
a laugh. That cackle is the greatest cackle in wrestling history.
Yeah, but he's not a freak. He never played
He's
a freak.
hysterical.
He played a millionaire.
Who is paying a special person
Yeah.
to bounce a ball 100 times, and then he kicks it away.
No, Patrick. He's not just any millionaire. He's playing Vince. Don't forget that.
He was.
He was.
Yeah.
That's
Was.
Vince McMahon said, I want somebody to play me, and I'm going to give you a lot of money to do it. And that's what $1 Million Man came from.
Exactly.
I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. That's what Ted DiBiase told me.
Hey, at least he played it well.
Yes, he did.
He played it larger than live, I think. I still want the $1 Million belt back.
I have a $1 million belt at home. They have just re-released them.
Yes.
It's really crappy, but it's great.
You can get it at Kmart.
Yeah, seriously. And actually, you can now get it without that figure. You can just get one now
Wow.
at any store that
And
sells.
have
the
you actually
title
got the $1 Million belt in the Raw vs. SmackDown game, the recent one that's been released?
Everyone
I
keeps
can't get it.
asking me that, and that is really hard. And I'm busy playing Kingdom Hearts 2.
Damn it!
I
come
can't get
on. You know, the next one's coming out. It's finally coming out for all 3 consoles.
Yeah, Xbox. In case you haven't heard this, SmackDown vs. Raw 2007.
Mm-hmm.
Xbox 360, PS3, PS2, PSP.
No game. Oh,
I've
fuck,
seen
Nintendo.
the graphics on this. They have like 10 screenshots of Cena and Mysterio, fittingly. Unbelievable.
It's amazing.
You can actually see the suckiness dripping off Cena. It's unbelievable. It's that good.
I think it's called Sweat, but still,
Yeah.
it's gonna kick a lot of ass. It really will.
It will.
And
Booker T, Boogeyman, back to the topic.
Do we have to?
What's
No,
it say?
pass.
Pass.
This match is make the Boogeyman wrestle or train him to wrestle or do nothing with him.
Well,
This is
I thought
stupid.
that was going to be the end of the character, and then that's why I said in our predictions, I'm going with Booker. Unfortunately, they're going to keep that character going, and it's just not doing anything for anybody.
If it hasn't sunk, don't fix it.
I
Ugh.
gave myself a dozen cookies for our predictions.
Man, you must have really.
Next match of the night. Be careful with what you say on this one because you're getting Hassan faster than you can say Hassan. Mickie James is the new women's champion. Yeah, you wonder who's pro Mickie James here.
Oh, man. Mickie
beating
James looked phenomenal.
Trish Stratus, unbelievable match, and the crowd supporting her the whole way.
See, I got to tell you, I did not like Mickey's attire the next night, because I love it when she wears those skirts.
Agreed. 100% agreed.
Yes.
Agreed.
But anyway, I thought this was a phenomenal match. The only downfall of this match was the finish. Somebody screwed up something.
Not so much.
Trish messed it up because her leg was hurt, I think.
Yeah, and
But-
Correct. Chris actually avoided me Hassaning James.
why?
Trish could not stand up. Trish is the one who messed up the ending of this match because she couldn't, for whatever reason, hold her own weight because you notice when Mickie did the chick kick, she couldn't even stand back up.
Right, she just kind of fell over.
It was weird, and that's why everyone was like, well, it was a weak chick kick. Well, she could barely move.
Yeah.
Something went wrong there. Nonetheless, the crowd was all on board for it. It was
Yes, they
great.
were. Phenomenal match, and like I said, it probably had the best build-up of the entire card.
And the next match before we go to our next break, it's going to be a quickie because, well, we all know who's going to win this one, right? Mark Henry versus Undertaker, casket match.
Oh, I am just glad that Undertaker kept his streak going.
Yeah, because that's the only purpose of it, just to keep the streak going for him to be on TV and say I'm, 15-0 now.
Yeah.
But, See, that
14!
See, that was kind of off because I stopped talking afterwards. You're supposed to while I am talking like right.
That was more to just edit you. 14 no.
14
no.
no.
Get your
14
stats
no.
right. There is rumor. I know the SmackDown spoilers are out now. You notice Henry didn't have Daivari by him because they put Daivari out of action.
With
You
the
gotta know
chokeslam.
Daivari's gonna come back. There is rumor. See, I think this is Mark Henry's last match. And if it's not, it's a mistake. There is rumor that the guy that they've had in OVW named Dalip Giant Singh is going to be brought up to fight against The Undertaker next. This guy is apparently really big.
Well, define really big.
We've seen what happens when people are really big. Exactly.
Over 7 feet tall
Yeah.
and
That's
over
Giant
400
Singh.
pounds.
Holy crap.
I'm going to reference another man by the name of Giant Gonzalez, who had a spray-painted ass crack.
Yes, he did.
I'll sign yourself right now.
I have to. Giant Gonzalez, my friends.
I still think that the idea of making that the back of the WrestleCrap book would have been perfect.
Oh, God.
That should have been the back of the book. A giant picture of his painted ass.
Spray-painted ass.
Did anyone actually like this match? Chris, did you actually like this match? Or was this just time filler?
Well, there were a couple of good spots in it, or 3 or 4, but that was it.
I thought this had the amount of spots that the Playboy pillow fight had. I mean, it was literally... I was more focused on this match just because it was The Undertaker, but still, this didn't really provide... It was Mark Henry is a danger to everyone he wrestles with.
Yes, he is.
And if The Undertaker, who tried to make a workable match with him, can't even do it, the guy's time is over.
He
If he
is
wrestles
very-
another match...
His
with
contract
something,
is over in June, so you'll not
not
see him.
soon enough.
They'll send him back down, and then he'll be buried alive.
Again, please.
Next, let's see. We have time.
We've got to... No, we need a
Let's go to
break.
break.
Let's go to break, because we need to analyze this one. Chris, man, thanks for joining us. If you want to call back in later on in the show, feel free to.
No, I'll let the green meanie take over.
Oh,
Ooh.
them's fighting words. Thank you, though, for joining us, Chris.
All
no
right,
problem.
keep it locked right here. We got people who want to call in. You can call in at 480-965-1260. That's 480-965-1260. And speaking of 1260, keep it locked right here to the Blaze, 1260 AM.
It's time! It's time! It's Vader time!
And welcome back to the Wrestling Epicenter of the Blaze, 12:60 a.m. It is Vader time. Funniest moment about Vader, that time when he was on some Arab television network and...
He almost smacked that guy.
Yeah, almost smacked that guy. Didn't he get arrested for that? That's just for...
You said Arab television. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking...
Hezbollah! Sorry.
We're going to get kicked off now. Good job.
Yes,
Good
we
work,
are.
team!
Yes, indeed he do! Up next on WrestleMania was Vincent Kennedy McMahon against the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels.
Shawn Michaels going back to his old school DX. Little DX action in there, I think.
Yes, he
Did a
did.
couple chops in there.
This, however, did exactly what it should have done. Which is, remember the week before WrestleMania, John Cena got his ass kicked
Yeah, it was funny.
by Vince McMahon?
Right.
McMahon was destroyed in this match, which is exactly what I would expect to happen when the boss comes in to fight a veteran of the company, and the veteran just says, "Screw you, I'm going to kick your ass."
Yes, he did.
Very much like the Stone Cold Steve Austin thing, but this was a lot more blood. St. Valentine Day Mass.
That was just vicious.
Whoa.
What was that?
That was more Hassaning. That was just random.
That was like the computer Hassaning everybody.
I loved it. It was it's very cool to see that match. And
Stupid
people
equipment.
could pick on it for all they were, and I hated the build up to it. I really did. I think it was a little bit overkill.
I think in terms of WrestleMania as a whole, though, no one really liked the build-up to WrestleMania, but the execution of it was phenomenal.
Well,
I mean,
Michaels taking that spot off that huge ladder and elbowing McMahon through the table was pretty cool. That said, that wasn't even the finish of the match. He picked him up and said, "Now I'm going to kick your teeth down your throat." And then he gave him the super kick.
Yeah.
Sweet chin music.
Switch your music to the face, and then McMahon has no teeth.
It was originally the Savat kick.
Savat kick?
So I,
Through the glass of the barbershop on Marty, our favorite Jannetty.
yeah, but
My
I love.
favorite Jannetty.
Yes, who? I'm not going to say anything. I have insider information, but I'm not going to share.
Well, therefore, it's returns to be insider information.
Yes, indeed.
Guess who's back? We're down to the final, 3-4 matches on the card?
Yes,
Patrick?
we are.
Must be time for Patrick! That's your cue. That's your cue, Patrick.
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 Come here, boy.
He is lost. Patrick, call back in.
Yes, indeed.
Technical difficulties. Patrick.
Remain seated, please.
Well, once he calls back in, we'll get to him, but we're on our next match.
The next match was the triple threat match for the WWE Championship or World Heavyweight Championship. I apologize.
World Heavyweight Championship. Woo. Don't get that one wrong again.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
They're all the same, just different.
They're both the world title. Who cares?
Rey Mysterio, Randy Orton, and Kurt Angle, who was the title holder.
Phenomenal match. However, I think they could have used maybe 10 more minutes. I mean, this one was legitimately 9 minutes in length, which seems incredibly short for a main event.
Now the question was, did the match take out all the heat of the next match? Did it really take all the energy out of the crowd, which typically happens for really high-powered matches?
Honestly, no.
No? Because
I don't think, and I'm going to get hated for this, and I expect the Hassan, Kurt Angle continues his streak of never, ever, 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 ever having an epic match.
Wow, that was quick.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. That's not saying he's not a great worker, but there's a difference between being a great worker and making a match epic. And he's just not accomplished it yet.
You didn't have time to make the match epic.
Well, that's fair. That's fair.
I mean, Triple H requires half an hour to work a match.
Yes, he does.
In case you don't know the backstage politics. And granted, there were 50 minutes to work his match, but hey, I'm not going to raise that stink. This could have stood to have at least another 10 minutes on it. It was a really good match, but part of it, what made it so good, is that it was so short. It was bing, bang, boom, we're done. Patrick is claiming to be back with us. Patrick.
You live?
I am here.
Okay. Your thoughts on this particular match?
We're on the triple threat match.
We're on the triple threat match? Well, basically, my feelings on it are what everybody else is saying. It was too short, but for what it was actually pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Ray won.
And I will say,
him.
Yes, indeed, and I will say this. This actually got some news coverage on some mainstream channels that the little guy won the belt, which I think is what they were going for.
Oh, cool.
Was it just Chicago area news, or?
No, it was all over. It was Fox News and CNN.
Wow.
Wow.
So, that was pretty good.
That's pretty good for their company, I mean.
Yes, indeed.
For once, a guy under 6 foot.
Maybe Rhea Crosby. Hold on. I hate that woman. I hate that woman. But never mind. Different time. Rita Crosby. That horrible. Horrible. Shut up.
I love this. This is the greatest thing ever.
You know, it makes me want to smoke some hookah right now, because every time I hear that, I'm thinking like...
Tangent, not important.
Yes, indeed.
Sorry. I sympathize, but...
Yes, indeed.
The important thing about this match is, does Rey Mysterio need the world title?
Yes.
Yeah, he does.
Does he need the belt to be successful?
Well, I mean, it's a good thing they didn't put it on Orton, but we'll get to that in a few minutes.
Yeah.
But I am glad Ray got this belt. And a lot of people... Here's the funny thing.
Yeah.
For years, the internet crowd has been saying, why don't they do something with Rey Mysterio? Why is he stuck in tag teams? Why is he stuck in the mid-card? Why is he stuck being the curtain jerker? Now he's the world champion. Does he really need the belt? Yeah! Yeah, you want him to get pushed? Give him the belt!
Oh, man, they were saying 5 years ago that he was, like, the greatest thing since sliced bread.
I don't know why their opinion changed. And the greatest thing WWE did is they ignore that he ever lost his mask. Greatest thing ever.
Yeah, smart move.
That was fine with, actually.
No, he needed the mask. That was the one thing Ray had that everyone knows him by. He has the mask.
When he was the maskless idiot with the horns on his head, oh man, that was just bad.
Okay, there was a lot of bad things in WCW.
Yes.
There are several
Latino
website viewers who would like us to do a Death of WCW specialty show.
And I'm telling you right now, I'm going to try to make this happen, but there's one interview I'm holding out to get when we do that show. And that is, I want Eric Bischoff on the show the week that we do that.
I want him live.
I want him live.
Let's get him in the studio.
Bring him in. He lives in Arizona. Why not?
Yeah. I mean, I would love to have him on for the hour and a half because...
Queen Creek.
Cave Creek?
Was he at the Hall of Fame?
I don't think so. I noticed Billy
He
King
was
at the Hall of Fame.
He was at the Hall of Fame, and he had yellowish, lemon-orange hair. I don't know what that was
orange.
about. It was weird colored.
Is he going for like the different phases of Eric Bischoff, you know?
Well, it looked, unless there was like a yellowish-orange light on him.
It's kind of weird. He had the jet black hair.
He's definitely had different color hair.
All right, moving on.
Moving on to more important matters.
Because Sherry Martel was making fun of him, and she's like, she's not here anymore.
Martel looked great, by the way.
Yes, she did.
She really looked great.
She looked a lot better than she did last year.
Oh, yeah. Just a sexy Kurt. He'll make your ankle
Speaking
hurt.
of sexiness,
That was the greatest segment of all time.
That promo, yes.
Tori,
I always loved Kurt Angle, but he jumped up like 10 points in my book.
you can find that on YouTube, by the way, in case you'd like to see that segment over and over again.
I taped it and I
Another
still
one on
watch it.
YouTube. What was that Iron Sheik Lex Luger thing that you posted?
Can't talk about it on the air.
Can't talk about it on the air.
I heard about it. You can't talk about it on the air.
I blank your blank and make you humble.
Make you humble. That's the greatest part of it. Okay, Playboy pillow fight.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to say 2 words.
What?
No. Pass.
Oh, can I say one thing?
Go.
Dirty Sanchez.
You can't say that on the air, pal.
Sure I can.
Don't
Nobody
say it
knows
again.
what it means.
Don't say it again.
Can I tell anybody what it means?
No.
Go get Hassan.
You just lost your mic, actually, right now. If you try to speak into your mic, you will not get this back until I feel you've matured.
Well, let's give him about 5 minutes, of course. Playboy pillow fight.
All right, you're back on there
Okay,
now.
good. He's
I can't help what the crowd chanted.
Okay. I'm skipping this match because it was crap. It was in the dead spot, and it did exactly what it was supposed to do. It died.
Yes, it
Yeah.
did.
It was
Fine.
nice. I can.
Horrible.
That's about it.
Final
Horrible.
match of the night.
Triple H.
John Cena, who fired a gun into the audience.
Was it a fake gun? Like it?
Yeah, but that's not really
That
the
was a
point.
real gun and he killed somebody, which is why he got booed the next
He
night.
shot Owen Hart out of the rafters.
Oh, that's just low.
Oh, well, so is...
Dude.
Whatever.
Dude!
No, that was pretty low, man. We can't assign you from here, but that was pretty bad.
There you go.
You're welcome. His opponent, the man who, by the way, Triple H, side note, the Barbarian called. He wants his costume back.
Yes, he does.
You mean Arnold?
Coming out as
I thought he
Conan.
looked like He-Man.
I don't
Arnold
know. That was
He-Man.
the dumbest thing.
It looked stupid, but
He had great new theme music, by the way.
I think he's trying to go for the whole that I want to be the next Conan, since the Wachowskis, the guys from the Matrix, are starting to make another Conan movie. But
Oh.
As long as he's not the Mexican Conan, who's just the most boring character on TNA right now.
there's a Mexican
oh my
Conan.
god.
Oh, Conan, he's the worst.
Stop it.
Oh, the other Conan. I'm thinking like they actually made a Mexican Conan. Oh, that Conan.
And the worst part of Conan, the worst part of Conan is that if he's not over, he's going to blame people for being racist.
True.
He never accepts the fact, maybe I suck.
Let's talk about the actual match here.
Okay, aside from
Cena and
the
they
king of
put on
himself.
great match. Great match.
It wasn't
Honestly,
that bad.
it was good. It told the story over 20 minutes. I really have to disagree with this whole 6-month build-up of a submission move ending the match.
The Stufu.
Stufu. Noob.
Worst submission finisher of all time, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
That thing looks horrible.
It does.
It's awkward to say the least.
It's almost as bad as the Steiner recliner.
Oh, I think the Steiner recliner is pretty cool, but that's just me.
Well, what he's
I
doing
think
because he has a whole muscle look at me and my veins with a pop out thing. That looks cool. But here's a funny part during the match. He did the DX chop thing. Both him and Shawn Michaels kind of alluded to that during the entire WrestleMania.
Crowd dug it too.
Crowd dug it.
Oh, they chanted DX the next night.
I mean, come on, it's a possibility.
Crowd was way into.
Hey, I hated DX the first time around, but I might actually like it the second time around.
I mean, the
It'd
third.
be something to watch.
Whatever.
Triple H will never turn face. And I don't think
No, he'll be heel. He'll be
He is
heel.
a face.
He is a face.
Look at him.
Because of the crowd.
Well,
That was-
whatever.
watch a segment of this match. There's a slugfest in the middle of the match where they start hitting each other, and when Cena hits Triple H, boo. When Triple H hits Cena, yay.
That was great.
It's boo, yay, boo, yay.
Anyone who tells you that the Chicago fans are traditional and don't like that is the announcers were wrong. Okay, they're astute fans.
Well, first of all, Chicago is one of the least traditional
Yeah. Oh.
cities in the entire
Oh, yeah.
United States. It's like second to San Francisco. It's like one of the more progressive cities in the United States. So that's the first thing that they're just completely lying through their teeth about. Second of all, people just don't like Cena. That's the bottom line.
The problem is we just haven't found the right guy for Cena yet.
I don't think there is a right
Can
guy.
I make my comments about this main event?
After you, go ahead, Pat.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, I think Triple H should be absolutely ashamed of himself.
Oh,
Aw.
come on.
I disagree.
Okay, now he said in an interview several months ago that Kurt Angle does not know how to work as a heel, and that's why Cena was getting booed, and that I was going to be the guy that's going to get Cena cheered. It got even worse, and I think he loved it. I think he deliberately went out of his way to make Cena look bad.
Oh, yes,
And I'm
he
not-
did.
He did, yeah.
Oh, he absolutely
Yeah,
did.
that was horrible, especially
I
after
loved
what
it.
he said about Angle. I hated it, and I'm no John Cena fan by any stretch of the imagination, but I can't stand him. But
I was going to assign you at the start of that, but then I heard your point and I remembered something very vital
What's that?
to this. And I was going to bring it up, but now it really ties in well. When Kurt Angle was fighting John Cena, the crowd would alternate chants, "Let's go Cena, let's go Angle," and it was good alternation. You notice how violent the crowd has turned. You bring
F-U?
up that it's gotten worse. Let's go, Cena! F-U, Cena! They've gotten worse! How do you get worse?
I don't
I don't
know.
know. I'll tell you who was the only heel that was able to get Cena face pops.
Who's that?
That was Edge.
Edge.
Yes.
Because nobody wanted him as champion. Nobody thought he was deserving.
But when he did get the belt,
Exactly.
He did get ratings, and I think Edge, like I said, the next night, I don't know if I said this on the air or in the green room, I really do believe that when Edge came out the next night on Raw, that breathed so much life into this entire angle, because you thought, wow, the guy that deserves to be on top is finally interjecting some life into the upper card of this promotion.
Cena and Triple H put me to sleep at the beginning of Raw last night, but when Edge came out, it was like, oh my God, I now care.
Patrick, man, we're going to have to go to break, so we're going to have to let you go.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming back, though. Thank you for giving us your input. That is actually very valuable to anyone who doesn't think so, because it's true. Triple H is far more over than... And Triple H has badass new theme music, in case you haven't heard it.
I wish he would use it more often.
That was great stuff. I loved that.
He should do it at all the pay-per-views. Just pinch the Conan outfit, please.
Hopefully that's going to be on the new Forcible Entry 2 album, I think is what they're calling it.
Hey, anything Motorhead does, I'm cool with.
Yeah.
Oh, and did you notice that, like, Stone Age sledgehammer on the throne?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, God, that was...
Actually, that was kind of cool. I don't know, that's my personal opinion, because it just looks cool to use on somebody. But, Patrick,
we got to let you go.
Adios,
All
man.
right, later, guys.
All right, when we get back, we're going to kick it into a different kind of gear. We're going to pick up with Gary Michael Cappetta, and after that, we're going to come back with a little TNA discussion. Yes, there is another wrestling company, and we've completely ignored them for the past 3 weeks. So keep it locked right here to the Blaze, 1260 AM.
This is Brett the Hitman Hart, and you're listening to the Interactive Interview.
Ben Venya keeping it real here on The Blaze. That was Bret Hart's Heartbeat theme song.
Indeed.
Something that actually a lot of people forget. That was the original theme song, which they managed instead of to edit, which I hate it when they do that, when they edit out the old theme music on the new DVDs. They kept it in to
Good.
their credit, which was something really good. Right now, though, it's time.
Yes, we're going to play a good interview, and like I said earlier, for those of you who are thinking, well, this guy's not a big guest, well, a lot of other shows this week didn't even have a guest, first of all, and second of all, well, I'm not trying to take a shot at anybody, I'm just saying that it's tough to get guests every week, but this guy was in the WWE, WWF, WWF for 11 years. He had a run in WCW. He's in the new Legends of Wrestling 3 game, which was made by a company that's no longer in business.
Woo!
Yes, indeed.
Acclaim?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, too bad.
And then, of course, he also is doing color commentary right now, or ring announcing for Ring of Honor, which is the internet's favorite promotion. So hopefully you guys will enjoy it. And like I said, there's some funny stories here. So why don't we go to Virtual James?
Available in the archives at WrestlingEpicenter.com, it's our interview with Gary Michael Cappetta. I mean, Gary Michael Cappetta.
So I'm trying to sleep. And I'm here, all of a sudden I hear some rumbling in the hall. And what's going through my mind, and this was before Arn came out into the hall, what's going through my mind, the boys are playing. I wish they could sleep. And then all of a sudden I heard some thumping. I heard some, and I put my light on in the room, and the pictures on the wall started to vibrate. And like, boom, boom. And what was happening, as I come to find out, was that Sid had a chair and he was hitting it against the wall.
Find it now at WrestlingEpicenter.com and InteractiveWrestlingRadio.com.
Welcome back to the Blaze, 1260 AM, as we're now being joined by good old GMC, Gary Michael Cappetta. Gary, how you doing?
Gentlemen, I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
Doing really well. Can we get you to announce something for us?
Thanks, I appreciate that.
I'm just kidding.
I'll tell you what, rent an arena, fill it with 10,000 people, give me a great microphone, and invite me, and I will.
Mm-hmm. And $3,000, right?
All right. Just fly me out to the beautiful state of Arizona. That would be fine.
I'd rather fly out to the East Coast, which I think you're located at, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I'm from New Jersey, so I miss it so much.
Okay.
All right, well, you got a book out. It's called Body Slams. It's been out for a while. It's just been re-released. Tell us a little bit about the idea when you first wrote this book.
Well, I didn't intend to write the book. I had been on the road with the WCW for 6 years. It was, at that point, the end of 21 years working in pro wrestling as an announcer mostly. I also produced and directed some promos that the wrestlers were involved in. And for the first time, I was home and didn't have any kind of an employment to go to, and it was very difficult to kind of let go.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just sat down and I just started to write some thoughts, maybe even like in diary form, which is why the book is called Body Slam's Memoirs of Wrestling Pitchman.
Right.
Because it didn't start as a book. But I started to write, and I found myself still writing 2 years later. And that was my full-time job for those years.
And how's it turned out for you? You happy with how everything turned out?
I'm very happy with how it's turned out, mostly because of the response that I've gotten from people who have read it.
Mm-hmm. I actually thumbed through it over the weekend, and I was actually finding myself, when I didn't expect to be perfectly honest, I was actually finding myself completely wrapped up in some of the chapters and some of the sections.
Thank you. There were a lot of there are a lot of things in the book that hit people in ways that I never intended. And I think it has a lot to do with having started out in pro wrestling, having no connections, starry-eyed kid, and worked my way up into the major promotions and onto pay-per-view and traveling around the world with the wackiest group of guys you could ever put together. And a lot of people identified with that and holding on to the dream. And then toward the end of my stint with WCW, at least, the way that I was dismissed very quickly and curtly.
Right, well, we'll get to that later on in the interview, but as I said at the beginning of the interview, the book has been re-released. What is new in the re-release that wasn't in the original?
What I did was I took the reader back to how the book came about, what I went through in order to publish it. I was on a mission before Mick Foley's first book came out. This book was shopped to publishers back in the late 90s, 96, 97, and I was repeatedly told that wrestling fans don't read, wrestling fans can't read. Wrestling fans would never buy a book.
So this is before the grand slew of wrestling books that come out every month then?
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just tired of hearing it, and then finally in 2000, I self-published. And I worked like a madman getting it out, and it got great reviews. At this point in time, I added to it, and ECW Press is able to get it out onto a larger stage. I also invited wrestlers who I had written about in the original edition. I invited them to write a response to anything that they didn't agree with. And I got my ears boxed in a little bit by guys such as Jim Cornette.
Oof. Well, be glad he didn't spit at you, though.
Yeah, I know. And, you know, we're buddies yet. But he had written me a letter, and he was correct about a couple of the specifics of the story, although I'll stand by my general take on the entire incident. It was an incident where he had, there was a fan that was coming over the railing, and he has, for those listeners that aren't familiar with Jim Cornette, he has a tennis racket that he carries around the ring with him, and he just hammered this fan, rim first, on the bridge of his nose. And in body slams, I say it was like taking a hammer and smashing a tomato.
Oof.
It was pretty gruesome. And Jim didn't like some of the things I said, and he had an opportunity to respond.
At least now we know why he carries the racket.
Yeah.
That was always a mystery to me.
And it, obviously he was a mama's boy and pretty much fit his image.
Right. Did he sue? I mean, did the fan sue that he got hit with the racket?
No.
That's surprising. I would think that if it was today, they absolutely would.
Yeah, and this was a story that hit the AP wires. This was a national story. I gave Vince McMahon an opportunity to respond, but he didn't. I talked to one of his right-hand men at the WWE. They would not go on record. George the Animal Steele wrote, Superstar Billy Graham is included. I talked about ECW, the promotion, and how I was offered an opportunity to work with them when I finished with WCW. And wasn't my cup of tea, and I said so. And Steve Corino, who was the last ECW champion, wrote in this new edition. So that's not included in the original edition either.
Well, what did you not like about the ECW product?
I just felt it was a garbage federation.
Do you still feel that way?
I think it evolved into something more than what it was in 1994.
Right.
When I was asked to participate. I just couldn't relate, and I still can't relate with asking fans to bring ironing boards and irons and weapons. That's just not what pro wrestling that I know and that I love is and should be all about. If people want to redefine wrestling from its core, from its roots, then they should manufacture another activity and call it something different.
Right. Yeah. Very interesting. Well, the cover of the book features you interviewing Ric Flair.
Yes.
Did you choose this cover, or was it ECW's doing? Or?
This was ECW's art department.
Ah. Are you happy with the cover?
Yeah. I mean, it's a larger book than my original book. Yeah, pretty much so. Sure. Mick Foley is central in my book because I talk about the night that he lost his ear.
Oh, yeah.
In Germany. Undertaker's on the cover, and he's essential because I talk about being on the road with him. Steve Austin is on the cover, and he's essential too. And then on the backs, Andre and Bruno Sammartino. Yeah, I'm happy. It looks pretty slick.
It does. It's a nice package, and it really surprised me when I opened it, and I was like, who's the author? And then I finally figured out it was your book, and then I was like, oh, I better call him up and try to get him on for an interview.
And I told him, I said, you don't have to put my picture on. My picture is not going to sell a single copy. To me, it was like, but they wanted, since it's called Memoirs of a Wrestling Pitchman, they wanted a pitchman, who's a pitchman, what's a pitchman, and they wanted someone with a microphone. So that was their thought.
How did you? Oh, go ahead, Brian.
What do you differences? I mean, how do you feel? Oh shit! I just.
We'll have to cut that later.
Cut this part out. All right, I'm just gonna.
This is why we're taped.
Now I get a pass too at some point if I need one.
Yes, this is where why we pre-tape interviews.
Yes, especially yeah.
But it was supposed to be because of unruly guests, not because of unruly
hosts. Yeah.
Oh no. See, it's good. That's a good thing to have unruly guests. But anyway, how was Gorilla Monsoon influential on you staying in the WWF?
Gorilla Monsoon was, I call him my guardian angel, because I didn't know him in any way before I started announcing. And he took a liking to me. And at the time, he was part owner of the WWF, the corporate end of it, which was called Capital Wrestling. And so he had a lot of influence over what went on in the organization. Vince McMahon Sr. owned 51%. The remaining 49% was split amongst 3 or 4 other gentlemen. And Gino had 25%. So he was the second highest stockholder. I did not know at the time that he was in charge of all TV production. So I just went out and never had any experience. I lied to get myself into to that position. And because they asked me, they didn't have an announcer one night. It was a show in New Jersey, down at the shore in Wildwood.
Yeah, oh, that's my old stomping grounds.
Really?
Yeah, I was at Wildwood every summer.
And it was a June show, the week before the big 4th of July kickoff.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, the WWF had events every week.
Right.
And they didn't have an announcer, and I volunteered. And at the end of the night, the guy liked what I did, and he asked me if I had any experience, and I said, sure. And I was saying to myself, please don't ask for a resume, because there is none.
Right.
And I didn't know. I mean, it was a front man that had asked me this question. didn't know that Monsoon was behind the scenes and that he was in control of everything. At the end of the summer, he called me up and asked me if I wanted to continue with him. And 2 years later, he put me on television, and I became the ring announcer for the A show of the WWF. And I was with them for 11 years.
Yes, you were. I mean, you were before the Fink.
I was before the Fink.
Yeah. What do you think of Howard Finkel?
I think Howard has the best voice of all, no doubt about it.
Very unique, to say the least.
Yeah. He's a TV announcer. I've done all the TV and the pay-per-views. I've been on the road nightly, and there are other skills that come into play when that's the case. And you need to develop more of a rapport with the audience. You need to, they have to believe you. You can't just be a character. They have to believe that what you say is true.
Right.
So that if the main event doesn't show up one night, you're the ring announcer, you're getting in the ring, and you're telling the people why. And you have to tell them in such a way that when you tell them what they're going to see instead, that they're going to say, oh, that's even better than what I paid for.
Right.
Because you don't want them walking out. First off, you don't want them leaving unhappy. You want them coming back.
Right.
And you don't want them asking for a refund.
Right.
So when I worked for Jim Crockett Promotions, whenever we had a schedule change, at intermission time, I would always ask the promoter how many people asked for a refund. And it was a way for me to gauge my effectiveness. So anyway, Howard has the best voice, but there are other skills that are involved when you're on the road nightly that I'm not sure that he'd be able to pull off.
One of our good friends, Chris Yandick, did an interview with you about 5 years ago or 4 years ago or somewhere in that vicinity. And one of the questions he asked you that I'm going to ask you for my interview is, how would you compare the differences between Vince Sr. and Vince Jr.?
They were both. They both could be ruthless. The big difference is that Vince Jr. is out there. I mean, he makes no bones about it. And Vince Sr., while he was on the outside, he was a gentleman. He was very well groomed. He was very well respected. And if you clicked with him, there was no one better than Vince Sr. You'll hear wrestler after wrestler talk about all of the years of service in the WWF on just a handshake. But when there was dirty deeds that needed to be done, he had someone do them for him. I talk in Body Slams about a very young Bruno Sammartino, who was blackballed from the business by Vince Sr. Because Bruno wouldn't play along with the script that Vince Sr. had laid out. He always treated me well. He wasn't the most generous of people with me. He owned Northeast wrestling, Boston, Philly, New York, D.C., Pittsburgh, like the major metropolises.
Right.
And I was making $65 for 3 weeks of wrestling, TV wrestling.
Right.
Which we would do in one night. And when I went up to him and asked him for a raise, he said to me, well, where am I going to get the money from? You know, and as a 27-year-old kid, I'm saying I had no answer for him. I was like stunned that he would even say that to me. But he always treated me. He was a gentleman.
Do you remember the coins in the pocket?
Yeah.
Everybody that we talked to about that always says that he used to jingle the coins in his pocket.
Yes, he did. I guess that was a nervous habit.
Continue. I apologize.
That's the big difference, though. I mean, Vinny is just out there, and he doesn't care whether you like him, whether you don't like him. He's just brash. He's bold. It has very little to do with his character on TV because he was always that way. Remembering that when I started ring announcing, he was the commentator.
Right.
And there are only a few years that separate us in age. He's only a few years older than I am. And he would just strut around the arena and pretty much ignore you if you
weren't a main eventer, or you couldn't do anything for them.
So you would say that Vince's TV character or on-air character would be pretty similar to the Vince McMahon off TV?
Very similar to the Vince McMahon that I knew. I just think that it's the inner Vince coming out.
A lot of people think that the reason that we even see that character is because he exposed that, I guess, jerkish side of himself when he did the whole thing with Bret Hart.
Well, how could you pass that up? I mean, when you're in the business to draw attention to your organization, and you have created a villain of all villains, whether it was incidental or whether it was on purpose. You know, you can't pass that up.
There's in your book, I saw there was a story about you suing Vince over some civil suit or something involving I think it was the use of your voice on something.
Yes. In the early days, before there were home video,
right?
Before they sold VCRs, we were at a little show in northern New Jersey, and his representative was there, and he passed out release forms to everybody who was on the card, including myself. And what it said was, now remember that this was a time when there was no wrestling figures in stores. The only thing you could buy would be a program at the arena and these ratty old pictures of wrestlers.
Right.
So no one could envision what merchandising could or would be in the future. And so I skimmed the release form, and most of the guys just signed it and gave it back to him. I took mine, I put it in my bag. What it said was that once you signed that, it released all of your rights for merchandising forever and anywhere in the world. And in return, you would receive, it was either a penny or a dollar, I forget. And that was just to make it legal. When Coliseum videos started coming out, I was on video after video after video.
Right.
And then they had the Hulk Hogan workout set. And they lifted my voice off of TV, and they put it on the audio cassette that accompanied the workout set. And I sued him.
And it worked out well for you, right?
Well, what actually happened is my attorney, for some mysterious reason, stopped showing up at the pretrial hearings. We never could figure that out. So I wound up suing my attorney. It was a malpractice suit. But even though Vince was separated from the case, his attorney, Jerry McDevitt, continually called my attorney in New York to keep up on the case for some reason. Don't know why. And I ultimately won the case against my attorney, who was disbarred in New York.
Oh, excellent, man. Excellent. Well, you left the WWF and eventually you joined, I think it was still the NWA. It wasn't WCW yet. Is that correct?
Not directly. I knew that my days were numbered with the McMahons.
Right.
And before the Crockett organization, the AWA, starting a national promotion or national television show.
Right.
First pro wrestling ever on ESPN. And it was being filmed out of Atlantic City. They asked me if I would be the ring announcer. And I did do that. That was when I broke ties. There was one short period where I think I hold the distinction of being the only person ever to announce for the WWF, the AWA, and the NWA all at the same time. It was only a matter of months, but I would announce at the same arena, the Meadowlands Arena, northern New Jersey.
Yep.
And to the beginning of the month, I would go in for the WWF. In the middle of the month, I would go in for the opposition. Vern Gagne and Jim Crockett had teamed up to form Pro Wrestling USA. And I was like shocked after I announced for them
that Vinny didn't fire me. But what they did was my dates just became less and less and less. But nevertheless, and I was the one that quit. It was, if there's one thing, as I mentioned before when you asked me about Howard, my biggest asset is credibility. People believed me. And if I would go into the same arena and represent two different wrestling organizations and say that they're the best wrestling organizations in the world, that would pretty much shoot my value.
Right.
So I stopped working for Vince.
Well, I mean, do you think do you know if Vince even realized that you were announcing for the opposition at the time?
Yeah, Vince would send a couple of stooges to the opposition shows. When I say stooge, I'm going to tell you who they were, and I don't mean this in a personal way. But Pat Patterson and Howard Finkel would come in disguise, and they would sit up in the cheap seats.
Did Pat come dressed as a woman?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I remember Pat coming to a New Haven show when I was with the NWA, and he came down to say hi to me. He just had a baseball cap on with his platinum hair kind of tucked in, and just very low-key came down to say hi to me.
Oh, well.
So, yeah, I mean, he was very well aware of what I did.
Oh. All right, well, let me ask you this question, and this is something you talk about very heavily, and it's even on your cover a little bit. The Undertaker, you traveled with Mean Mark Calloway when he was still in WCW, and like I said, I listened to an interview you did with my friend Chris Yandick, and I wanted to ask you this question as well. What exactly happened between Mark Calloway and Buzz Sawyer?
Well, the story goes that it was the first night that Mark was in WCW. We were taping our weekly syndicated show in Saginaw, Michigan.
Right.
And so no one knew him. I didn't know him. We did the show. The show was over. Most of the fellows were going back to Detroit and then leaving for Ohio the next morning. I was going on that night. I just like to travel through the night. And from the shadowy corners of the locker room, I hear this deep voice just saying, "Where are you going tonight?" So I said, looked around. He was obviously he's a huge guy. At the time, he had shocking red hair. He didn't have all the tattoos that he has today. He was a lot trimmer. He was an incredible, and is an incredible athlete. And he wound up driving along with me. But he was very quiet. He was eerily quiet. And we were together for the week because the Midwestern tour lasted that long. And he was very quiet when he got to the arenas. And then when we'd leave the arenas, the farther away we got from the arenas, the chattier he became. And finally, halfway through the week, he began to trust me. It's a very backbiting business, backstabbing business, and you have to be careful. If you're smart, you have to be careful of who you say what to.
Right.
And he all of a sudden started to unload the story on me about Mad Dog Buzz Sawyer,
right,
who was one of the headliners at the time. He was brought in by the booker, Ole Anderson. They had Ole and Mad Dog had a relationship from previous promotions and over the years. And as it turned out, when Mark wanted to get into wrestling, and he lived in Texas, I think it was in the Houston area, he saw an ad in the newspaper that a fellow who was training wrestlers cost a couple $1,000s. He didn't have the money. He borrowed it from his brother, who was not a rich fella, but his brother went to the bank, took the money out, lent Mark the money. Mark went to the gym, paid the trainer. They had 2 weeks' worth of working out. And the third week, the trainer didn't show. And this happened to about 10 or 12 different guys who got screwed over by this trainer, who then took off for California. They all lost their $2,000. Well, that trainer was Buzz Sawyer. And this was the first time that he came face-to-face with Buzz Sawyer. It was on this tour.
in order to pay his brother back, he, in addition to his regular job, he worked at night. He bounced at bars. And it took him a little bit more than a year to pay that money back to his brother. He wanted to rip Buzz Sawyer's head off his shoulders.
I would imagine.
But here's this young guy, first opportunity with a national promotion, and the headliner is someone that screwed him royally, that caused him a lot of pain and grief. And we spent a couple days with me listening to him about how he was going to disfigure the guy, how he was going to attack him, how when he had the opportunity and the two of them were alone. And the story goes on to say that when we were in Cincinnati, Buzz Sawyer was the main eventer. He was the last guy in the locker room. I'm the last one out of the ring, and Mark was in the corner waiting for me until Buzz came out of the ring. We're changing. He looks over at Mark and says, because he didn't know who Mark was for the entire week. He didn't remember who he had. Buzz was he was always buzzed, so he wouldn't remember yesterday, never mind a few years ago. And he just looked across and he points to Mark and he says to him, "I know you from somewhere, don't I?" And I thought, oh no. Oh no, there's just the three of us left. Mark, who was sitting against the wall with his feet on a metal folding chair, just kicks the chair flies across the room, hits the wall, gets up, and starts doing his John Wayne walk over to Buzz Sawyer. Takes a chair that was on the other side, turns it around, and they're sitting face to face. And Buzz is saying, "Where do I know you from?" Mark is just fuming. They talked a little bit, but before they got into anything, I changed quicker than you could ever imagine. I was like a blur. And I just pulled Mark out. I said, "Mark, come on, we have to go to we were going to Charleston, West Virginia." I said, "Come on, we have like 300 miles to go tonight." And I pulled him out. And if he had ever done anything, if he had ever attacked Buzz, it wouldn't have been Buzz that would have been gone, because he was friends with the promoter.
Right.
Would have been Mark. We would have never ever seen an Undertaker.
Oh wow.
That was the story of the Undertaker.
What did you think? What did you think when you saw Mark debut up in the WWF as the Undertaker? Did you think that the gimmick, because it's so, if you really think about it, the gimmick is so over the top and so crazy, but for some reason it works.
And here's why. As I would sit night after night in WCW and watch Mark wrestle, it was just so obvious that he had incredible balance, that he had incredible athletic ability. But he had two expressions. One was a really bad imitation of a pained expression, and none. He was as white as a ghost. I mean, he was just like naturally. That's just the pigment of his skin.
Well, you said he had red hair, right?
And he had red hair
Yeah.
at the time.
Well, that kind of goes hand in hand, light skin and red hair.
So that was a natural thing to do. I don't know that I would have thought of it, but the people that were around Vince at the time were very creative. Pat Patterson being in the forefront. Mm-hmm. So they took the strengths of the guy, and they took his weaknesses, and they made both of them work to make an incredible character.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I say in my book Body Slams, I say today I wonder how much of a genius Vinny is. How could he be so lacking of creativity today when we saw so much of it 20 years ago?
Well, let me ask you this. Did you see Monday Night?
No, I didn't.
One of our good buddies is Marty Jannetty. He actually works on our website.
Okay.
And he's been brought back to WWF, which surprised us, I'll be honest with you. But I'm glad to see it. WWE, I should say. And the big thing that happened on Monday night was Vince McMahon walking around in a thong with his pants around his ankles, asking people to kiss his ass.
Right.
I was like, is this where the business is headed? This is ridiculous.
You know what it is? It's desperate. It's desperate. It's also, I mean, it's a lot of it is toilet humor. They are trying to appease like teenagers and 20-year-old guys. At least what they think at least entertains those guys.
Right.
Now let me tell you, I spend all day with 16, 17, 18-year-old guys because I teach. I teach school, and they can get like a chuckle out of that. But week after week after week, and that's what they're presenting. It's pretty sad. Right. And for someone like myself, and I would, I'm sure like you guys, who love the wrestling event and what it's supposed to be, it's really sad. It's really sad. When WCW and Raw were on Monday nights, right? Their combined ratings were what? In the 8s, 9s?
8, 9, 10, yeah.
Right? And what are we doing now? High 3s and 4s?
Yep.
So half of the audience has gone somewhere, and this is all they can do? This is the best they can do? I don't think he's so much of a genius. He's a risk taker. I'll give him that. But unless he has strong people around him, he pretty much shows his warts.
Do you think that this has anything to do with the fact that there really isn't any competition for him anymore?
I think he is a person that thrives on competition, but nevertheless, I'm not sure that pick any brand that you want out there of any kind of a product. Are they going to intentionally make a poor product because their competition goes out of business?
No, but I'm pretty sure that if there's only one company that makes sneakers, that Reebok and Nike and all those companies, if they're the only ones that are in business, one could argue that they would not put as much effort into topping the other one, simply because there's nobody else out there to top them.
Right, it's almost like invention by necessity.
Right.
But there's always going to be someone else.
Right.
I mean, there is nobody, although that may change in the near future with TNA, but there is nobody out there that's in his face. But he has to be prepared for when that happens.
Right.
And in the same way that he overcame all of the territorial promotions, they weren't ready for anyone to be in their face either. It was very easy for them, and they became very lazy because they didn't have any competition. I mean, can you imagine if you had the only cinema in town and you showed one movie, and for miles and miles and miles and miles around, that was it?
Right.
Well, you don't have to do deep to find something that's going to entertain people. But one day, he may be sorry for all of what's going on today, because if he gets a competitor that's going to get in his face, he's not going to be able to snap into place and put on a great wrestling product,
right.
In a heartbeat. And then think about all of his advisors or his road agents: Ricky Steamboat, Arn Anderson, Ric Flair is there. I mean, all of the wealth of knowledge, the talent that's there, and they know better. I mean, I've spoken to them, and they'll say to me, "Gary, this is what the boss wants." And then they say to me, "But you know what? If he turned over the reins to us, and he told us to turn the WWE into a promotion that was a real, entertaining wrestling product, we don't think that a lot of the people in the locker room would be able to do what we would want them to do." That's how bad it's gotten.
There's a lot of...
And it's not to blame them. I mean, I'm not putting down the talent, and there obviously are great talents with Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit, etc. But there is no place for guys to learn. We have weekend warriors today.
Right.
And in days past, you worked alongside of a veteran night after night after night, and your income was based upon how many people you drew to the arena. And that was the way to break in. It wasn't paying $2,000 to go on a Saturday afternoon and wrestle at a wrestling school that's run by a guy who's never seen his name as a headliner.
Right, and that's something that actually Hulk Hogan said to us, and I've always followed this quote, and I must have spat it out at least 30 times in different interviews since then, and that is that if you look at the guys today, they've learned the moves, but they never learned wrestling.
Yeah, I've worked now with Ring of Honor.
Right. I was actually just about to ask that because you mentioned a good wrestling product, and that's Ring of Honor's forte. They're just wrestling.
Yes, it is. And in the summer of 2002, their first year, I went to an event in Philadelphia, and I was so captured by what they did that I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to help them. I didn't need to be in front of a camera. I called up Gabe, who was their booker, and I offered my services. And we came to an agreement, and I've been doing the backstage interviews for them. And I've gotten to know your prime independent wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
And you take a guy like Bryan Danielson, American Dragon, he stayed here one night, and we brought out some old tapes, and he just sat on the floor watching these tapes. He was watching Arn Anderson. And I asked him a question in the middle of, God forbid, I asked him a question in the middle of his viewing, and he didn't answer me. And when the match was over, I said, Brian, didn't you hear me? And he said, it's a sin to interrupt an Arn Anderson match.
There's talk that he's going to be in the Hall of Fame this year, which I hope is true.
Arn Anderson?
Yes.
Yeah, he's a wonderful guy, and he's incredible talent.
Mm-hmm.
There's a part in the book where I talk about young wrestlers today. Is it a revolution? Are they revolting against the past? And my answer after working with some of these guys is no. It's just that there's nobody telling them any different. And unless you're a Bryan Danielson, unless you're a Samoa Joe, who studies the history,
right?
Hogan is right. They're just going through the actions,
right?
I will take a guy and I will say to him, when you come through that curtain, now I'm sitting in the fourth row. When you come through that curtain, who am I supposed to see? Like, who are you? How am I supposed to feel when I see you? How am I supposed to feel when you wrestle?
Mm-hmm.
Who are you as a rep? And I can't tell you how many times I just get blank stares. Because I run down the ramp and high five everyone all the way around the ring, and it means nothing. It means absolutely nothing.
Do you see that at Ring of Honor as well, though?
I do at times, and there is nothing in any promotion. There is no promotion that I love 100%.
Right.
But Ring of Honor has evolved. From when I began watching it, there was a lot of flippity-floppity kind of things happening.
Right. That was my complaint about them at the beginning, was a lot of their matches were very similar in that the first match on the card was what we'd call a cruiserweight match, and the last match on the card was what we'd call a cruiserweight match.
Yeah, it's not that way.
Right. It's changed quite a bit.
Yeah. And they have a heck of a job there without having broadcast TV. And being a DVD company, they have to advance storylines so fast and in different cities so that it's next to impossible for a fan to keep up with it unless you're online all the time. If you're in Chicago and there are 3 shows on the East Coast, it's very difficult to know where the storylines have come.
Right.
But one day, they'll be able to take that DVD library and just like the episodes of The Sopranos, Gabe does such a terrific job in tying everything together and everything making sense in their storylines, supported by an incredible roster of wrestlers, that Carrie, who owns Ring of Honor, will have a gold mine there.
Do you think that they'll ever get on TV and maybe pose some competition to WWE?
I think if that were to happen, there would have to be a Bill Gates to come around and say, I want to finance it.
Right, that's what I always say when people put down TNA, because they lose money. But the fact is, they're going to lose money until they build up a reputation, in my opinion. Like, nobody's going to come in to a wrestling company and right off the bat have the kind of audience and the kind of following that Vince has.
And I want to make clear that, in my opinion at least, that today's young wrestler is by far more athletic, is much more of an athlete than the wrestler of yesteryear. It's just a matter of knowing when to use your spectacular moves, how to protect yourself, to think about your career as far as longevity goes. If you love the wrestling business, and you want to stay in it until you're 45, 50, you can't be flying out of the ring and landing on your back. Number one, most of the times that happens, it doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. It doesn't make any sense to stand on the top turnbuckle, facing the center of the ring, and do a backflip into the aisle on top of your opponent. The idea is you're supposed to want to win a match. Whether you do that in a minute, but why would you risk that? There's no logic to that. And someone like, I don't know, some of your new age kind of promoters would say, yeah, but you want to entertain the people. Well, excuse me, but pro wrestling has entertained people for generations.
Yeah.
You didn't need to do that.
I've always said that, but isn't wrestling in and of itself entertainment? Because, a headlock is entertaining to some people.
It's really all kind of a matter of opinion, though. I mean, to some people, Hulk Hogan is, the most entertaining guy in the history of wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, you could say the same thing with Samoa Joe, but they're two completely different wrestlers.
Well, what worries me, though, is it could be like the music industry. It could be like there's an episode of The Cosby Show where Bill is listening to his old jazz records, and his kids, who are growing up in the late 80s, don't understand it at all. And they're like, do you call this music? And quite frankly, I'm fearing that maybe the wrestling business is sadly passing people like me, and not that I'm going to put myself in the same league as you, Gary, but maybe it's like passing us by.
We're all fans.
Right.
We're all on equal footing there.
Mm-hmm.
Let me throw this out to you. You see, I think we don't give young people enough credit.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in high school, and which was in the late 60s, I would never, ever think of listening to music that was popular 40 years ago. Today, that's not the case. I have a lot of my students went to Billy Joel concerts. Billy Joel from the 70s.
Right.
I know he's kept current and so forth. They're Beatles fans. They like Cream and early Eric Clapton.
Right.
Why? Because it's good.
Right.
Because it's quality. When I was on I did a cross-country tour with my book. The summer of 2001, I went to, and I talked about this in Body Slams, I went to state fairs, county fairs, and I spoke to people of all ages. I talked to older people who lament the death of what they remember and what was special to them. And I spoke to young people who voiced the same kind of sentiments.
Right.
And I used to have a TV at my stand, and I used to run Great American Bashes from the 80s. And you couldn't hear the commentary because of all of the commotion at the fair and the rides and so forth. But I would get young people that had no interest in buying what I was selling. But they would just stand there and stare at that TV. They'd watch Dusty and Nikita. They'd watch Sting. They'd watch Arn and Tully. They'd watch Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express. And they didn't move. And you can be sure that they didn't enter that fair to come in and watch wrestling. We don't give the young people enough credit. And all of the crap that Vinny is putting on TV is he's pandering to the lowest common denominator.
Right.
And it's doing nothing for wrestling, and in the eyes of corporate America, if we want to lift our sport up. When I went on that tour, I got in touch with all the rental car companies to see if they would underwrite my, because I needed a van to get around. I called hotel chains, and they wouldn't touch anything having to do with wrestling. And I would say, why? And they would tell me, mainstream America.
Well, that's the thing. I've been a wrestling fan for as long as I can remember. I've been a wrestling fan since I was 4 years old, and when it got really popular about 5 years ago, because of all the adult stuff, I wanted to be known as a wrestling fan, but I would always remind people I've been a wrestling fan. I'm not just watching it because of the Howard Stern effect.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's not why I like it. I like it because I've always liked it.
You know, and that's not to say that there hasn't been unathletic and crazy things in the past.
Right.
I mean, Abdullah the Butcher would get to first base in the Olympics. I mean, let's face it. He was an attraction. You know, the original Sheik. He was an attraction. We had the Wolfman. I mean, we had bizarre things, but they were special attractions.
Did you ever see anything that was so bizarre that it actually made you think that this is silly, though? One that comes to mind was RoboCop.
Yeah, well, there were financial reasons behind that the co-promotion of the movie and our event in Washington D.C. No, but there were some wacky things that when in the '80s NWA, when I was with them, and it was Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin and Precious,
right?
And Kevin Sullivan had Precious under his spell, and the blow-off was the Triple Tower of Doom in Baltimore, where they had to fight their way through the three vertically stacked cages,
right?
And Precious stood at the bottom with the key to the key to get out, and we had to wonder who had her heart, you know, and that was, but I mean, that was intrigue. That was,
right.
It was a very creative way to wind things down, but I'm not saying that it should be like, you know, like a Shakespearean play.
Right.
But the themes can be the same. They're human drama.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that they really do. See, that's something that I will go off on until the day I die, is suppose you're home at 9 o'clock and you turn on ABC and you're watching Regis. Now, Regis has this idea, or Gelman, who's their producer, that for some reason 15-year-old kids are watching Regis, which is not the case.
Mm-hmm.
And they had this idea of all the musical guests should be who's ever hot at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact is, they're trying to appeal to a 15-year-old audience that's in high school while they're doing this.
Yep.
And they're not watching it. So what I always understood is everybody always thinks, well, they're the ones who have the money. No, the parents are the ones who have the money. So why do we always pander to the young kids? That's, I guess, what I'm wondering.
The only reason if I had to pick a reason, if I had to like just reach out there and find something,
right?
It probably has to do with their sponsors,
right?
Using sponsors in some way, which it really doesn't make any sense. As you said, kids are in class,
right?
If it was in the summer, it would kind of make sense, but.
Right. Well, we have so many questions, and we've kind of scrapped the format. So I hope that's okay with you.
Whatever. Yeah.
Going back to the format, though, I do have to ask you this, because I'm sure that you've been asked it 1,000 times, though, and it is in the book. You talk about the scissors incident with Sid Vicious and Arn Anderson.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were witness to this?
Yeah. Like all of my stories in Body Slams, I mean, there's a little bit of a background. We had worked in fact, we had worked in Phoenix, I think, on a Friday night, and then we flew over to Atlanta on a Saturday. We had done, it was either a Clash or a pay-per-view. It was some kind of a special event on a Sunday.
Right.
And then that night, we got on a plane to Europe. Wow. So everybody was extra tired. We got to Europe, and they put us on buses, and 4 or 5 hour trip just in time to do our first European event. Then they put us on buses again, and then we were on our way to the hotel where the incident happened. And the tour bus had beer. So, you know, people, that was the last time the tour bus had, you know, beer, but it had beer, so a lot of the guys were tanked. And when we got to I think it was called the Moat Hotel. Because they knew the American wrestlers were arriving, they kept their bar open. Most of us were just so tired. I just dragged myself to my room, and but some of the guys stayed, down at the bar. Three of the guys were Sid Vicious, Arn Anderson, and Doug Dellinger, who was the head of security.
Right.
Back then. And
he stayed until the end of the company.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they started getting into it. Flair and Arn Anderson, Ric Flair and Arn Anderson have always been like brothers.
Right.
And Sid Vicious started to put down Flair, who wasn't present at the time. And,
I wonder why.
And one word led to another, and and Sid was putting himself over, about how important he was to the company, what an attraction he was. And one word led to the other, and they went for each other. And Doug Dellinger pulled them apart, told them, "Boys, go to your room." Arn Anderson's room was across the hall from mine. Sid Vicious's room was on the other side of the hotel. Arn went to his room, Sid went to his room. But when Sid went to his room, he just stopped by to pick up a chair. And he double-backed around the back of the hotel, and he's outside my door, which is across from Arn's door.
I can't imagine actually grabbing a chair as a weapon. I mean, in a real fight, like, that just seems so wrestling.
Now, was it a fold-up chair, or was it like a...
No, it was a hotel kind of a, not a big upholstered chair, but probably the chair that was in front of the desk.
Right.
In the room.
Okay, I apologize for cutting you off.
That's okay. So I'm trying to sleep, and all of a sudden I hear some rumbling in the hall, and what's going through my mind, and this was before Arn came out into the hall, what's going through my mind, the boys are playing, and it's just, I wish they'd go to sleep. And then all of a sudden I heard some thumping. And I put my light on in the room, and the pictures on the wall started to vibrate. And like ba-boom, ba-boom. And what was happening, as I come to find out, was that Sid had the chair, and he was hitting it against the wall. And he was challenging Arn to come out. So now, of course, Arn is not going to come out as a sitting duck.
Because Arn's not an idiot.
He grabbed the only the protection that he had, and they were the scissors from his manicure set, And so I went to my door to look out.
Right.
But in this particular hotel, they didn't have peepholes. You couldn't see out.
Right.
So I put my hand on the doorknob,
right,
and just about to turn it to come out. All of a sudden, there's like a big explosion. And when Arn came out of the room, Sid smacked him over the head with a chair. And then Arn went at him with the scissors, and they started fighting over the scissors. And they were lacerated from their faces, their arms, their backs, the torsos, and finally Vader came down, and Too Cold Scorpio came down, and pulled them apart. The police came, and they were sent back to the States. It was very, very scary.
I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean,
they're lucky nobody got seriously injured, though.
Yeah,
for sure, and there was no contest in the sense that the sentiment in the locker room was totally behind Arn. People had gotten tired of Sid and his ego, and he would hold up the promoter minutes before he was supposed to go out on a pay-per-view, and just pretty much disrespecting the people around him and the wrestling industry.
Well, we only got a couple more questions, then we'll let you go. We know we kept up a lot of your time tonight. But I do want to ask you, when we interviewed David Penzer, David spoke very highly of you. And he said that you actually stuck around and helped him learn a lot about the business before you even stepped down, and you didn't even have to do that, he said. The first question I have for you is, how did you enjoy Dave, and how do you think he progressed as an announcer, as a ring announcer?
David, when David started working with WCW, he would come up from Florida to the Atlanta tapings, and he would bring wrestlers with him.
Right.
We didn't have competitive matches, or at least two names against. I don't know how competitive they are these days, but two names, one against each other. It was job guys.
Right.
And then he did a lot of the bookkeeping and paying off different wrestlers, and he was very loyal. He was very thorough, and he wanted more of a role. And when it became known that I wasn't going to be continuing with the company, I was very, very happy that that he wanted to do the announcing. I was very happy that he got that opportunity to do it, because no one deserved it more than he did.
Mm-hmm.
I pretty much. There wasn't anything I could have taught him about announcing, but I was trying to coach him in how to make the best deal.
Right.
And they did not treat him well in the beginning. And I just said to him, David, just get your foot in the door, and then you can work your deal from there. And I tried to help him, but he progressed very nicely. I understand, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand he has a role in TNA right now.
Yes, Shane Douglas sadly had troubles involving his personal life. He was sent to rehab, and basically that left them without a backstage interviewer. So their current ring announcer was Jeremy Borash.
Mm-hmm.
He's now doing backstage interviews, and David, who's been working behind the scenes with TNA for the past 3 years, is now doing ring announcing again.
That's great news.
Yes.
Great news. I saw David a couple of years ago, and unfortunately it was at a funeral.
Oh.
But
anybody we know?
It was more than a couple of years ago. It was Rocco Rock.
Oh, yes.
Ted Petty.
Yeah, that was really sad, too.
Mm-hmm. And we just lost the other member of Public Enemy, too.
Yeah.
Well, just two more questions.
Well, you really know how to depress someone.
Yeah. That's my gimmick.
1 minute we're laughing our asses off about Sid Vicious bashing Arn Anderson with a chair, and now we're like...
Well, it just seems... The reason that's funny, though, is it's just so absurd to think that...
That was my question. I'm telling the story, and I'm trying to figure out why you're laughing.
Well, it's just absurd to me to think that in a real-life fight, somebody's idea would be to take a chair and bounce it off somebody's head.
Mm.
It's like... we understand it in wrestling, but for some reason in a real-life fight, I would almost rather just use my fist.
Well, the truth of the matter is that a real-life fight isn't all that interesting.
Right.
And it's over really quick.
Right. It goes over in 30 seconds, if that. Punch it in a...
You didn't want to disappoint,
Right. And I can just see Sid. I can just visualize the way that you tell the story. I can just visualize him yelling at the top of his lungs, banging that chair against the wall, yelling for Arn Anderson to get out. And...
Can you imagine the executive who had the room next to Arn's? You know what I mean? you have to realize that when all of these...
And now you wonder why the hotels wouldn't sponsor your tour?
I mean, you have to realize that with all this craziness and the craziness that's gone on in the airports and so forth, that it's in the middle of the real world.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure that a lot of your students, since you said you're a teacher, have known you from this. You did the Showdown Legends of Wrestling video game.
Yes.
And basically, how cool is it to sit down and do ring announcing for guys that unfortunately passed on such a long time ago?
It was great. I did. It took 2 weekends.
Mm-hmm.
I went out to Cincinnati one weekend. I went down to Austin, Texas another weekend, and I actually recorded 6,000 sound bites.
Wow.
To make that happen, and it was a lot of fun. People would be amazed at how quickly you go into a recording studio. They have a monitor set up, and they have it all gimmicked so that what you're going to say is going to pop up on the screen. And on top of the monitor, they have a red light, they have a green light. Green light goes on, you talk. Red light goes on, you stop talking. Well, but you're doing these announcements. You're like spitting them out like quickly. And what you have to do, and I used to, no smart ass comments here, guys. But I at one time did a phone, like a 900 phone line, so I knew how to do this. It was a wrestling phone line.
That's your story, and you're sticking to it.
There's a feature on the game where you can create your own character, and so I'm just saying the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, and then I'm saying superstar Billy Graham, Bruno Sammartino, Ernie the Cat Ladd. And then in another sequence, I'm saying weighing 315 pounds, weighing 245 pounds. And later, the computer puts this all together.
Right.
So you have to modulate your voice so that when it's all strung together, it sounds right.
Right.
And it was just a lot of fun. It was just like one after another. And unfortunately, the company went out of business.
Right.
Shortly after that, but I had nothing to do with that.
Right.
Right, yeah.
And I never did get paid for that.
Didn't get paid?
I didn't get
You
paid.
Get paid?
No, I keep on getting letters from the bankruptcy courts.
Oh, man.
That sucks.
I know, but I did have a good time, and I do have a copy of it, although I've only seen it, like I played it like for 15 minutes. To tell you the truth, I was a little bored with it, but I'm not a video game kind of guy.
Well, yeah, that was the only complaint about it, was Jimmy Hart did the music, and all the songs sound very similar to their actual theme songs, and all of that's done properly, but a lot of people said that the actual game itself was a little bit,
The gameplay was a little shy.
a little too...
thought
It
so.
felt rushed. It felt rushed.
And I thought it was me. Like, I was saying, oh, hey, I didn't make Andre do that. I would have never had him, jump out of the ring at that point.
Right.
And so it just kind of got away from me. I'd gone out to Seattle to visit a buddy, and we rented it, and so I got to play it one time. But I was bored real quick.
Excellent. Well,
but I'm not ever bored in reading my book, Body Slams.
Yes, and that's the next plug, and that is, where can people pick up the book?
Boy, was that schmaltzy or what? Hopefully just about anywhere.
Uh-huh.
There have been book sightings all over the country in different retail outlets. Of course, ECWpress.com, Amazon.com, wherever you usually get your wrestling books.
Mm-hmm. And what's the full title?
It's Body Slams, Memoirs of a Wrestling Pitchman.
Mm-hmm. And before we let you go, I just want to give you one word association, and I hope you have something funny here, because she actually joins our weekend show all the time. And I want something to bounce off of her for our weekend show. We have 3 shows. One's on the radio and 2 are on the internet.
Once you say she, chances are we've not met, but try.
Missy Hyatt.
Oh, Missy.
Yep.
You surprised me.
Who are you expecting?
Well,
were you expecting?
I didn't know. I didn't know who you were. Some diva who knows nothing about wrestling.
Right.
Whereas Missy knows wrestling inside and out.
Right.
Did you know? And you can verify this with her.
Uh-huh.
That I was the person who gave her the title.
The First Lady of Wrestling.
That's right.
Right. She does credit you with that.
You tell her that she owes me a book. When I was on tour, I had Tammy Sitch with me, and Tammy was on the phone with Missy one night when we were on tour. We're supposed to be doing business, and the girls are chatting. So I just said, send my regards to Missy. Missy wants to know if she can have a book. Yeah, I'll give her a book. I'll send her a poster, no problem. But the deal is I get one back when hers comes out.
Right.
I have never heard from her. So you tell her she owes GMC a book.
I will. I might actually talk to her on Sunday, so if I do talk to her, do you want me to give her your number, I should say?
Sure. And I want to know, I remember her, she used to be into hockey.
Yes, very into, well, maybe not into the sport. Yes, the hockey players, more so than the game, yes.
And my last memories of her at WCW was, when she gets into something, she really gets into it. She used to skate around the arena before we would go on the air. I don't know, making believe she was playing hockey, I don't know. She was on some planet. But she's always fun to listen to, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, we ask her one question, and somehow she'll turn that into a 20-minute answer, usually not even about what we asked her about.
And it probably always ends with WrestlingVixens.com or something.
Yeah, well, WrestlingVixens.com doesn't exist now. She's with Francine, who is with ECW, and it's Missy Hyatt and FrancineTV.com.
Will you give her my regards, would you?
Absolutely, and once again, we can't thank you enough. This was a blast for us to do.
Oh, yes.
I had a good time, too. Thank you. I appreciate you inviting me.
And before I came on, I was checking out, before my computer burned out, I should say, I was checking out your website, or what I believe to be your website. Do you have a website for your book?
There's nothing much there, but, oh, yeah?
Okay, what is the web address, just so we put this up?
Okay, it's www.bodyslams.com.
Are you going to do anything with that, or?
I will. Eventually I will. The book was originally supposed to be out in October. I've just kind of been waiting for it to come out, and now that it's come out, I'm like real busy and can't do anything with it.
Well, if you need any help, our website address is WrestlingEpicenter.com, and we'd gladly help you out with that.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, we'll put up any promotions or
right.
you want.
Or I'll even make a section for it if you want. I mean, I'll help you out the best I can.
Thank you very much. I'm not selling off there anymore, but I'd like to put some, stories from the book in there. And I always do my rants, at the end of this book about indie wrestling and the state of wrestling and anything that I think anyone will listen to.
Absolutely.
Well, if you want to come back for any type of big rants, feel free.
Pardon me?
If you want to come back and do any major rants, feel free to give James a call.
Okay.
We love rants.
They don't seem to change that much until the wrestling industry moves forward. I'm just going to keep on hitting at the salient points of what the hell are they doing?
I mean, it seems to just go from bad to worse. We had, I'm trying to think of some of the necrophilia angle with sleeping with dead people. Then Monday night, Vince is wearing a thong for no reason whatsoever. And a couple months ago, we had Vince pulling out rubber heads out of a guy's ass. It's like,
yeah, and then you had Vince Russo with midgets whacking off in garbage cans. And he's published by my publisher.
Right.
And are we still taping for air or what?
I haven't hit stop, but I probably was going to cut it when I thanked you.
Oh, okay.
Why, would you like me to hit stop? I'll hit stop if you'd like.
No. I did kind of avoid mentioning his name earlier.
Okay, I will.
I just don't, But off the record, and I've never met the man, but I've just seen so much crap that he's put out there and how he spins it. And when I said that earlier, that there are people, I think I said new age kind of, I was referring to him when they say that they're trying to entertain people, and which my response was, well, we didn't need your help. People have been entertained for a long time by pro wrestling.
Right.
But I had told my publisher, just don't book me with him anywhere, because we'll get into a fight. I mean, I don't need it.
Well, supposedly he's reborn now, so he says he's changed.
Well,
so.
And maybe he has, but he's still been a fucking asshole to the business.
I agree.
Could it change?
I agree. I mean, how can you give David Arquette the title belt, the world title? I can't get over that.
It boggles the mind, some of the things, but my complaint about the business, and I probably will never say this on the air, but if you look at wrestling from 1998 WWF and look at it still today, the set's almost the same, the type of programming is almost the same, and the fact is, when people keep turning it off and turning it off and turning it off, and as we said, we've gone down to getting a combined 9 rating to getting 4 being a good number. You would think, well, this isn't working anymore. Let's change it up.
Yeah, and as I said in the book, I've narrowed it down to 3 possible reasons. Mm-hmm. Number 1, which I mentioned during our interview, is that Vinny was not really ever so much of a genius that he's been given credit for.
Which I thank you for being one of the few people who has the courage to say so.
And that his creative talents aren't there anymore, the people that were around him.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, possibly, he doesn't want it to be as successful. There could be, I mean, the guy is so wacky, he's so egotistical that he may want to see his kids fail. I think that's a possibility.
Wow.
And then the third possibility might be that he may want to drive the stock prices down for some kind of, I don't know, what he could do to make a lot more money.
Well, I mean, one thing he does do, though, that I will give him credit for, is I guess people that were good to him over the years, he's brought back for Legends action figures and things of that nature. And if you really think about it, they're making a lot of money off of their extensive tape library. And, of course...
That's actually a good question. Are they making any money off that or not? I don't know.
They are. They actually are. And the funny thing is, I got some stats sent to me from Jack Specific. And the classic wrestling action figures of people like going back... all those classics, they sell more than like Batista and John Cena. Which I can't imagine, but it happens.
But I would have the same question as your partner had. Are they getting one fee up front, or are they getting residuals?
I have no idea.
Or are they getting the one fee plus residuals?
And even if they are getting residuals, are they really getting exactly what the stats would show?
Well, I don't know that he would do anything.
He would. I mean, Jake Roberts said one night he sold 1,000 T-shirts, and Vince told him that he sold about 15.
My guess is he's paying them maybe like a $10,000 fee. He's probably just brought them back to rape them one more time.
Well, if you look at the ECW One Night Stand, he was paying like guys like the Sandman and whatnot, a couple grand for the show, and then he turns around and gets a $300,000+ buy rate.
Right.
And he's getting $40 a pop for that.
Well, yeah, but in fairness, though, Sandman knew what he was doing.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. It's absolutely true.
I pretty much I worked. I didn't ring announce the whole show, but I made an appearance at Maryland Championship Wrestling Sunday night.
Right.
And it's unusual that I go out and do those kind of things because I pretty much priced myself out of the market. And a lot of times when a promoter will call me and ask me, first time I tell them I'm not interested in ring announcing. I'll do a main event or whatever, a special announcement.
Is there any reason why that is, or you just don't want to do it?
Excuse me?
Is there any reason why that is, or you just don't want to do it?
Because you'll never see a pity GMC on the an Ox Baker tour.
Okay.
No, it's just geez, this is not going to sound. It's not going to sound good, but I'll tell you the honest truth. I just don't want to be involved in indie wrestling in that sense. It's kind of like I don't want to. I've worked really hard for 31 years to elevate myself.
Right.
And I don't want to bring myself down. And that's what would happen because I'm going to introduce ticket sellers. It's like, no.
Right.
And a lot of times when promoters call, I'll say, you're wasting your money. I'm not going to sell tickets. So, hire two other old ECW guys or 15 ticket sellers or something instead of paying me that kind of money because it's not worth it.
Well, that's very honest of you to say that, though.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of people would just,
shut up and take the money, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's honest, but number one, I don't want to go out to an empty arena. There's a certain pride there. And number two, when he figures it out on his own, because he wasn't smart enough to figure it out to begin with, he'll screw me over on my pay. So, you know what I'm saying? And that did not happen Sunday at all.
Oh, yeah. MCW actually is a pretty well-respected independent promotion.
Yeah, the promoter there he was top notch, and I don't expect him to bring me back. It was just the idea of I opened the show with a little I was thinking I'm going to get food, but 2 minutes of history of Baltimore wrestling, and then a little history of.
How did they react to that?
The people were so hot, and the place was packed. Must have been about 1,000, 1,200 people there.
Wow.
And you really had to really be the drizzling shits in order to get food.
Did it happen?
In other words, the WWE guy.
Oh. But it was a perfectly booked, show. And when I did that, I mean, I just said like a few things, like Moolah, she won the tournament, she won her first championship. And I said, where did it happen? In Baltimore. And every time I did that afterwards, I just held the microphone out to the people, so I made it interactive.
Right.
Yeah.
The funny thing was, though, they did something very similar to that at a recent WWE pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
And they mentioned this is where superstar Billy Graham defeated Bruno Sammartino to capture the world title. This is where Tito Santana defeated whoever it was, Greg Valentine, I think it was, to win the Intercontinental title.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where Vince McMahon choked out his daughter with a lead pipe.
Yeah.
They said those three things, and I was like, what?
How sad is that, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, fond memories, and then all of a sudden, what a minute, wait, what?
Yeah, great.
That's sad.
Yeah.
But I don't know what question you originally asked me, but you got 20 different answers.
All right, man. Well, we really do appreciate it very much, and
I enjoyed it, guys.
like I said, anytime you want to come back on, or if you even want to come on the website, come on. We have sections for Marty Jannetty and Francine and Lenny Poffo. So if you ever want to just join us and talk to some of the fans, because they'd like to talk to you, if you want to do that, just let me know, and I'd love to have you on.
Thank you. And if you have any ideas of how I might be able to fit into something, let me know.
Okay.
Anyone else notice just how mellow Gary Michael Cappetta is? It's really refreshing that a guy like that would be so mellow.
And so just laid back.
Nice.
I'm thinking, like,
Scissor fight.
did he, like, double as a jazz DJ in his past life?
He may have. Whatever the case be, we gotta go to break right now. But when we come back, we will actually talk about something that isn't WWE.
TNA?
Right here on The Blaze, 1260 AM. I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. I had to do this.
Welcome back to Wrestling Epicenter on The Blaze, 1260 AM.
In '96, Hogan came out with a promo at the end of the NWO intro, and he said, "Not anymore." Well, that kind of is what I feel about that. Not anymore, Sonny.
You started like lip singing that too, Ben.
Yeah.
You were getting into it, like it was American Idol. Like you were.
The funny thing is, Tammy has a MySpace page, and that's still her theme. That's her little song on MySpace.
Wow.
How'd she manage to do that? Most of that stuff is pulled off because it's copyrighted material.
Well, Sonny claims that she's on the phone with Vince every other day, so we'll see.
Sonny kind of plays that weird crowd. She just kind of walks that fine line in life.
Sherry Martel any day over her.
Yeah.
Any day.
Sherry still looked good, and I think Sherry could still work. I think they should have her training some of these models that want to be wrestlers.
Show them the ropes.
Yeah.
The real ropes. Now, how about we go to TNA? Because we've, as much as we all love TNA, I think it's not necessarily the greatest thing since sliced bread, but still pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm. We just haven't really been giving it enough time lately, and for a company that I talk to, the managers of it, every once in a while, I think we should be paying it a little bit more attention than we have been lately.
Should, because
they do a little bit more for us than some other people do.
And it's always good to promote the other guy, just because, for Christ's sakes, we've wanted diversity in wrestling for the past 5 years now, and now a chance to get it.
We wanted what?
We wanted diversity.
What's that? What in the hell is diversity?
Diversity? You have an education there, boy?
I believe it's a very, very old wooden ship.
Bobby Heenan wants his joke back.
To be fair, TNA, this is how my mind works.
Yeah.
I forgot about the Hall of Fame induction ceremony on Saturday.
Ooh.
And it wasn't because I didn't want to watch it. I wanted to see what was going to happen. I forgot about it, and I was actually not even thinking about it until it was done.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was watching TNA.
Right.
I was watching Impact, and I was kind of impressed with what was going on.
It's impressive.
To be honest.
And that's surprising because when you started doing this show about 3 or 4 months ago, whenever it was, you did not like TNA.
I still don't like it. I still think they have their heads up their asses.
Can you say that?
Yes,
I can.
All right.
I really do not like them.
I think they're doing a great job.
They're stupid. And you're going to hate me for this because I'm going to say it again.
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to preface what you're about to say by saying it takes a star to make a star.
Sting sucks.
It takes a star to make a star.
Sting sucks.
Alrighty.
Jeff Jarrett sucks.
Hey, man.
Scott Steiner sucks.
In that same respect, if you want to make money, you got to spend money.
The stars that they have, let me put it this way, there are 2 guys who would be up to WWE caliber right now. 2. And these are guys who aren't WWE, Island of the Misfit Toys guys. These guys have never been there before. 2 guys. The alpha male, Monty Brown, and Abyss.
So you're trying to make an analogy sort of like XFL and NFL, where NFL would be the high caliber and XFL not so high caliber.
And the only guys who ever made it
were Tommy Maddox.
And Rod Smart.
Yes, or he hate me.
I hate that guy so much. I can't stand him.
Super Bowl appearance.
I really do hate
him.
him.
Super Bowl appearance.
Hey, but they
Tommy
lost.
Maddox.
Tommy
I have
Maddox.
a Tommy Maddox jersey at home.
And he does have a ring now because he was on the team.
I hate him now.
he was.
I'm a Bronco fan. Now I really hate him.
He was third string for a while. But anyways, back to TNA. I call it A because it's more Canadian than...
Yeah.
TNA. It's a Team Canada and the Dudleys opening up for the first 15 minutes. This was good old ECW type stuff where it didn't have to be a match to get the crowd involved or excited. These guys just beat each other up. And this was the Dudleys at their best when they were beating people up. And to be fair, Team Canada did a good job. It also harkened back to the old school thing of the bad guys have stronger, maybe not stronger, but more quantity of numbers over the good guys.
And absolutely, it's the strength in numbers, old strategy that the NWO used, and it works.
Until they have to trim the fat. And
yes, it really
simultaneously, each one of those guys got cut off.
Your CD is skipping.
You're skipping now, Ben.
That was my fault. I had to do this.
When you actually get more to that track, it's not so bad.
You're never going to get more of that track if you don't shut up.
I got to tell you, I think that TNA's on the right track. Go ahead, I'll continue with Impact.
The train of thought right now, because right after that, and those guys aren't fighting for the tag team titles, which is what made it great. And there's your downfall. The very next segment was the guys fighting for the tag team titles. Chris Harris and James Storm, and I said them right this time.
Right.
Hooray for me. Chris Harris and James Storm against the James Gang. Kip James and Brian G. James, or BG James. If I've said the name James too many times in the last minute, I'm sorry.
Hey. But I pity the announcers. They probably had a harder time with that than you did.
I don't pity the announcers. Don West sucks.
Don West is fun. He makes it entertaining. I know the concept of an announcer sounding excited about a product is kind of new to WWE fans.
Don West has
an
orgasm when he goes to commercial.
I was saying you were doing your John Madden impersonation, but it turns out it wasn't.
Football!
You know what throws a great pass? Brett Favre. No,
I love John Madden because he overstates the obvious. Well, if they're going to score any points, they're going to have to move the ball forward.
This is the kind of
Thank
10
you.
to 12 week injury that
reminds me of
10 to 12
It's
weeks
muddy
to
on the
heal.
field today. We're having trouble moving.
That reminds me of Tony Schiavone calling everything a Northern Lights suplex.
Yeah, that's true.
Hey, or the greatest move, event, show, star, minute in history.
Tony, that was
Tony Schiavone, in
Sorry.
case anyone has a sound clip of it, and I'll play it next week. If you do, if you send it to me, if you're listening. And if anyone has a sound clip of it, Tony Schiavone's greatest call of over-enthusiasm is, David Arquette won the world title!
Yes, I have it on tape. Would you like me to bring it in?
Yes.
Okay.
I would, seriously, because it is that bad.
I feel bad for David Arquette, actually. I used to have a lot of hate towards that, but you think about it, man, he probably did not want to do that.
He probably didn't, but, and I'm going to give you the same line that DDP gave me. For those who don't know this, you should know this. He took all the money he made from WCW and he gave it to Brian Pillman's widow. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Back to the TNA thing, though.
See, it's a problem. We have a hard time sticking with TNA because really, there's not.
I don't
too
have
many
a hard
things-
time with it. I'm just disgusted with a lot of what's going on.
It's just like there's not a lot on there to
Does
keep us
anyone
excited.
care about the new old age outlaws? They suck.
I agree with you, and I think Conan sucks, and I think he's going to unfortunately turn this into a, you don't like me because I'm Hispanic. No, we don't like you because you suck. Exactly.
And Chris Harris and James Storm, we had this discussion. Chris Harris
You're wrong.
does have some talent.
I think you're
I'll
completely
give you
wrong
that.
about these guys.
But Jeff Jarrett, I believe it was Jeff Jarrett, might have been Don West, said that over the past 3 years, this has been the best tag team in wrestling.
You're going to have to see some of their matches when they're not on TV restraints and 3 minutes long.
If
you see them in matches like at Turning Point 2004 and the Six Ties of Steel, which was phenomenal, these guys have had some tremendous matches, and we're talking about a tag team that stuck together longer than any WWE team currently has.
That's WWE's creative. A lot of the reasons they stuck together is because TNA creative doesn't know what to do with them.
I don't agree with
If they
that.
were
I
as
think that
good-
they're just a good tag
If
team.
they were as good a tag team as they're supposed to be, why aren't they in WWE now?
Well,
They
maybe
could
there's.
run roughshod and
Well,
rejuvenate
that
the tag team
said,
division.
why did so many guys stick with ECW and not jump until they realized the ship was sinking?
Company loyalty.
That's company loyalty.
Is it company loyalty, or do they realize what I've realized? Let me put it this way to you. Look at Chris Harris and James Storm. Look at them closely. Look at their just general appearance, okay?
They're two big. They're two relatively large guys. They're both about 6 foot, 6'1". They both weigh at least 230. That seems to me that they're cut for the WWE cloth.
Now let's take about an inch off them, maybe 20 pounds, okay? Just for safety's sake. And you know what we got? We've got guys named Joey Mercury and Johnny Nitro.
Mm-hmm. I'm not going to deny that M&M is a great tag team, but they looked like that before M&M was even in existence. When they started being America's Most Wanted, Joey Mercury was working in indies in Cincinnati, Ohio, in front of 32 people, calling himself Joey Mercury or Joey Matthews. Joey Matthews. And he was teaming with a guy that's now retired. Let's be honest about that, okay? These guys have been a tag team longer than anybody else currently on the scene. And they've had better matches. I implore anybody that's out there that doubts the greatness of America's Most Wanted to watch Turning Point 2004. You can get it right now in any DVD sale store. Buy it. Greatest tag team match I ever saw.
We're only so much TNA fans. Let's get somebody who loves to talk TNA with us. It's kind of our TNA expert on the show because he always calls in to talk TNA. Mike, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Good to hear from you, man. What's going on? What do you want to talk about TNA-wise? We're basically going off about Chris Harris and James Storm right now. I hate them.
AMW?
Yes.
Well, first off, they need a better... Well, their music's okay, but the guy that talks in it is just so annoying.
I find the defendants guilty.
Guilty.
It's kind of cornballish.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, they're like turning into like Dudleys from ECW and WWE, and they're basically like the okay, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut because the Team 3D is in there, but they're like okay, they're so far the best tag team in TNA.
Right.
Yeah.
They definitely are. And I think that, like I keep saying, and like I said in the green room, I really do believe that Chris Harris is going to break apart and be a single star. I think that they're just waiting for there to be the right temperature for him to break apart. Right now there's too many guys on top. As soon as there's lesser guys on top, he can break off and become one. I really think this guy's got a lot of singles potential.
Yeah.
All right, and what was up next on Impact? Oh, the drowning incident I want to discuss.
Yeah.
They did a backstage promo where Abyss went to Christian Cage's house and attacked him, threw him in a swimming pool, and attempted to drown him. Now, this sounds bad, but watching it, it was actually relatively entertaining.
Entertaining in the sense that it wasn't kind of campy, maybe?
Maybe a little bit.
What do you expect, though? You're not going to really expect them to drown the guy.
Well, no, and Father James Mitchell made a great call. He goes, "You can't win the title off a dead guy." I don't know.
That's can't be good funny, but
Yeah.
Don West apparently was disgusted and ended up leaving.
Yes, he did, which made no
I think
sense.
they
'cause
should do it more often if that's the end result.
Ooh.
Don West is a great announcer. I hated him at
Suck.
first. I like him.
He's like that legendary announcer for WCW,
Who's that?
Which one
or
would that be?
Don West,
Mm.
or he was like one of the top announcers or team announcers or something like that in WCW, I think.
Oh, late WCW?
Don West never was in WCW.
Are you talking like the late WCW era, like Mark Madden?
Mark Madden and Shivani?
I have no idea. Because one of my favorite movies I used to like to watch was Ready to Rumble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw him in there, and I figured he was one of the announcers for WCW. It was just a thought. I didn't know because I didn't
Was
really.
Don West in Ready to Rumble?
I'm trying to think. Mike Tenay.
It was Mike Tenay, Shivani.
There was a third guy.
Scott Hudson.
Scott Hudson.
Scott Hudson.
Hudson was in it,
Hudson
yeah.
was the-
I love Scott Hudson. I want Scott Hudson to work on my website, and Scott Hudson actually, I found out, views our site occasionally. If you're out there, Scott,
How's it going?
come on board.
Come on
We've
board.
had people listen to the show before we didn't expect.
Hey,
Like
come on
San
in, man.
Martino.
Bruno San Martino apparently listens. Hi, Bruno. How you doing?
Good to hear from you, Bruno. But anyway,
I can call him up if you want me to.
you know what I noticed about TNA, and I'd like
Overstyle.
our TNA experts to clarify this for me.
Uh-huh.
I'm confused as to what they're actually trying to mold themselves to look like. I think they're trying to look like ECW. I think they're trying to look like AAA. Or
I don't think
AAA.
so.
I think they're trying to look like CMLL, and now I think they're trying to look like WCW for one reason.
They bring back the old
I immediately recognized a voice the minute I heard it, and his name is David Penzer. I heard David Penzer's voice
But-
announcing Superstars, and I was like, that's the guy. Him and Gary Michael Cappetta, I just define with WCW announcing.
I don't know, dude. I just think that you need to step back and stop thinking that they're trying to do something and they're trying to do something. Maybe they're just being themselves. Maybe they're trying to create their own niche. They're a little bit ECW. They're a little bit CMLL. They're a little bit WCW. But they're a lot
basically
themselves.
a little bit of everything.
Yes.
They're still trying to find their identity, though.
They just need better fireworks and maybe a bigger stadium.
A bit more cash.
They're going to get their chance to find their identity, sort of.
As long as Jeff Jarrett doesn't hold the heavyweight title, they have a chance.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's it.
That said, I'm not one of the guys who thinks Jarrett shouldn't be on there because he's one of the few heels that actually gets heel heat.
They're going to get...
Well, yeah, because, I mean, he's like the... Well, I think. I don't know about anybody else, but I think he's actually the most annoying heel in...
That's what's good about him, though.
By far.
Yeah.
You hate him. That's what his idea is. He's supposed to be hated.
Let's look at this.
That's like Lance Storm at WCW. I don't know why the internet turned on him. Maybe because he left ECW and they were the ECW cult.
Allow me to be serious.
Yes, they hated him, and I'm saying, but he's a bad heel. No, you hate him. He's a good heel.
He's a great heel.
If you, what I'm saying about Jeff Jarrett is, if you watch the pay-per-views, like, I mean, I even got, I haven't seen, like, I only saw Against All Odds this year, but almost every single person they interview at the back, he always interrupts. He always like steals the show, like almost at the end of every single pay-per-view. It's just so annoying to me. That's
including the last pay-per-view, which kind of surprised me. But I'm glad that they did make the Christian Cage and Monty Brown match the last match on the card, even though it was far from the best match on the card.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and Jeff Jarrett still like interrupted after the match.
Yeah, after the match he came out and they had the whole thing with Sting.
Let me say this about TNA. I'm very critical of TNA, and I'm critical of it for Jeff Jarrett. I'm critical for a lot of the things it does.
I don't understand why. I really think it's a great product.
I don't think it's getting... Well, I don't think it has an identity yet. It'll develop one over time, yes, and that's what I'm waiting for. And it'll get its chance. I'll be less critical. I'll be more perceptive starting, I believe, next week. Because it'll be on a time I can actually care to watch.
Yeah.
Because I'll actually be somewhere to watch it.
Not Saturday nights at 1 o'clock.
Not Saturday nights. I mean, it'll be Thursday nights at 1 o'clock in the morning. But
No,
hey,
not
I'm
1
close.
o'clock. It's going to be at 11.
Yeah, 11. That's so
I'll
reasonable.
still be awake to watch it, is the point.
It should be on prime time, but I actually talked to Tracy Brooks yesterday. They did an interview for 3 Count Wrestling, and she says that they're doing this for their own protection, which personally I think it was company lines kind of thing, like when JBL told me that they moved to Friday nights because of good reasons.
Here's what I think that will get them like really good ratings. I don't know about you guys, but I've always like loved, respected this wrestler, but
Okay.
like been talking with agreements for him to come to TNA.
Who's that?
Bill Goldberg.
Oh, yes. Goldberg would add something. And
Goldberg could tear up the place. I agree.
But I wouldn't be surprised if he gets pinned by Jeff Jarrett.
Nah, I don't think it'll be that
Smashed
happen.
over the head with a guitar, and
Yes.
he's just as vulnerable as he was when he got hit with a sledgehammer. Mike, we're going to have to let you go. We got to go to break, though, right now.
Okay, we're going to go to break. Thanks a lot for calling, Mike. We'll see you on the forums. Thanks, everybody. We'll be back in just a moment. We're going to talk about a little bit more WWE and a little bit about a big superstar from WWE being suspended right here on The Blaze, 1260 AM.
Back here on the Blaze, 1260 AM, getting funky. Flash funk.
Everybody. Sorry.
Welcome back to Wrestling Episode of
Too
Blaze,
Cold
1260 AM. Wow.
Yes.
You're really bringing out the funk tonight, man.
I got to find out what happened to Too Cold. Last time I asked Francine, she said that he was going to be doing some sort of a fan festival, and if I'm not mistaken, that got canceled. So we'll see.
Who'd show up?
I would have. If I can walk to the ring with Francine on my arm, I'd be there.
Yeah, take that back. Me too. You know, here's the funny thing. None of us have actually ever met Francine in person. Even you, James. You've known her for like 5 years.
That's kind of bothering me, actually.
Maybe one day. She was ever out in the AZ. Francine?
Well, I'll tell you what. In October, I'm going to be in Delaware. So maybe I can say, hey, come get a cup of coffee.
Yeah. Or say, hey, what's up? Or just run into randomly at the bar.
You'll see I'm not as freaky as you might suspect.
Well,
or so I think.
I had to take the opportunity. I apologize.
Now,
we are all as bad as we suspect.
Now, during one of the breaks, we were looking at WWE's website, and Mysterio will be defending his first title
Brain
defense.
Trust of WWE.com.
It was the title defense on
great.
Friday on SmackDown against Randy Orton, who has been suspended. But the weird thing is, his notice of suspension is right by the main link to that particular article on Rey Mysterio defending his title against Randy Orton.
And of course, Randy Orton's been suspended for what they're calling unprofessional conduct, whatever that means. For those who don't know, Randy Orton got in a little bit of trouble, and I'm going to watch myself, so don't worry.
You're going to get a son and you'll get cut off if you say anything bad, so I'm on it.
He likes to...
Expletive deleted.
He likes to squat over girls' bags.
Via purses.
Female wrestlers' bags.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bags being purses, actually.
Yes, and open the bag up and squat over them.
You get the idea of what he does and how it could be funny to him, but mortifyingly horrifying to
Lord.
the females who have to receive such
Gee
bad.
golly, that's too bad.
Stop it.
Sorry.
Stop it.
No more Family Guy references.
That's not Family Guy, that's South Park.
That's South Park. That's
Close
Mr.
enough,
Hanky
man.
Never mind.
It sounded like the old guy from Family Guy, the creepy one.
How you doing, Muscle Arms?
Wonder if he's ever coming back.
Oh, God.
You get your fat ass back.
Get your fat ass back.
Okay, anyway.
That's terrible, man.
You got to get the S going there, man. You got to get
Oh,
the...
but how? It's just like, come on, Webmaster from WWE, just change that, dude. What?
And for WWE, though, this is a major... He must have done something really bad. Because this is SmackDown getting punched in the crotch again.
Yes.
On talent.
Indeed.
Yet again. I mean, how many times can you gouge SmackDown of their talent?
Well, I'll tell you what. In order for him to get pulled, like you just said, he must have done something wrong because he was in too high of a spot in the company. That said, I am curious if it's unprofessional conduct or if it's the results from the drug test that they took a week before WrestleMania. Now, the drug test policy says that if you break the test, you're suspended for 30 days. That said, maybe he had 2 different violations.
Ouch.
It might have just been one violation occurring after another after another.
Maybe he had crack androids, basically, is what I'm saying.
Or probably...
These are all alleged claims made by James Walsh, not necessarily factual.
He might have...
Way to avoid the libel.
But yeah,
Yes.
very good. Very good, very good.
Here's the thing.
Actually, it's slander.
About Orton. It is slander, yeah. Right.
Libel written, slander spoken.
Well, that's why I'm in class.
That's why you're a freshman. That's why you're a freshman, I'm assuming.
Oh. Now, here's the thing about
I'm
the
never
Orton
going to
stuff.
graduate.
Thanks, James, for giving us hope.
Go ahead.
About Orton and that situation. You got to look at some of the facts here that are presented. In that, here's a guy who, if he did fail his drug test, he's still getting a lot of leeway. He officially has a week more work before he gets suspended. So, how heinous is what he did? And if it's that heinous, why now does he get a week before he gets suspended to work? It's because they need him to do it storyline factually. But I don't understand.
I kind of take this as the kind of deal where a guy's leaving a company but they hold a title belt. They kind of expect them to stick around and put somebody over to give them their spot. I think right now what they're doing with Orton is they're going to have him get beat by 2 people, and for those of you who don't want to be spoiled, cover your ears now.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
He will be beaten this Friday night by
Rey Mysterio, and probably next week by Kurt Angle.
Yep.
Which means he's officially been degraded a little bit, which makes him leaving it not necessarily that bad, even though it really is in the grand scheme of things. Pardon me. But I think that this is going to at least be something where he's giving back, and you made the call in the green room, well, what's going to prevent him from doing something else to screw up? And the real reason that is if he does something else to screw up, he's going to be suspended for even longer.
That's pretty much true, and you gotta...
And this better be an unpaid suspension, too.
On another related note, we have returns, we have firings, we have releases to this week. We have suspensions, everything in between. A WWE star asked for his release, and I say star very loosely. Everyone's favorite problem solver, Tyson Tomko, asks for his release outright. Backstage story is that he was promised to get a push with Snitsky as a tag team, but just after WrestleMania, Snitsky started wrestling on a tag team with Goldust. He approached WWE management, asked for his release. They obliged, and he has now announced that he is going to go to Japan to make some money. And here's my opinion on this one. I thought he was a complete idiot for asking for his release. And because this is WWE, you're stupid.
He just burnt his last bridge.
But then he announces he's going to Japan. Here's a big guy who's not a really good wrestler.
But they love
no
big guys who are not
skills.
really good wrestlers. Look at Stan Hansen.
Yep. Japan eats him up because all they care about is the competition. They don't care about anything else.
They're like big guys who can beat the crap out of you.
He'll probably be a world champion or a mid-card champion somewhere in Japan because he also has the look
Yes, he does.
of a Japanese wrestler.
But he also has a cool look for WWE. That tattoo really adds a lot to him. It's just unfortunate that he just doesn't have the skill.
Yeah.
to go along with it.
Big boot. And with Test coming back, there's no room for you to boot anyone.
Yes, indeed. So you get booted.
And the third person on this list who has made his return this week, you knew him as Edward
Jamal.
Fatu, or Jamal from 3
Or
Minute Warning.
Ekmo Fatu.
Ekmo Fatu, that's right, and his Chemo Fatu was his tag team partner,
Or as the
Rosie.
Spanish say.
Rosie gets released, so there goes all chance of a 3 Minute Warning reunion, which I gotta be honest, I actually was gonna look forward to because those
I
guys
wasn't.
were agile.
I hated 3 Minute Warning.
Ric Flair comes out and starts cutting a promo, and then to no music, interrupting him. Probably should have been that music, but it wasn't.
Well, he's not Arab, he's Hispanic.
It should have been something. He comes out to no music, just interrupts, and his name is Armando Alejandro Estrada.
The third. I had to throw that in there.
Coming out to insult Ric Flair for everything he does, and then he unveils his beast. You know, he's Cuban. He's Cuban, is this descent. Yet he comes out with this guy he calls Umaga, who is a cross between a head shrinker, Saba Simba, and the second coming of Kamala.
That's true.
All three of those descents, none of them are Cuban.
Yes.
He looks stupid. He's wrestling with piercings in his face, which bugs me a lot.
I think the Cuban gimmick should burn people with cigars.
That's pretty stereotypical, James. I'm not gonna
Yes,
lie.
why not?
That's borderline.
Borderline offensive.
Borderline offensive, but you know what? Here's something much more offensive than anything I've ever read the Ultimate Warrior doing. Now, as you know...
Hit the music.
Hit the music, please.
Any music.
Any music to kind of keep this going, but still. Warrior made a little speech a while back at UConn. It wasn't exactly the most politically correct speech I've ever seen before.
All right, I got to give you a little bit of backstory on
Before
this.
you start, I have a completely unrelated 3-minute warning for you.
What's that? Ron Simmons. The man I sat next to while he was completely blitzed on the WWE tour bus.
He was tired.
You could smell the liquor coming off him. But I like the guy. He was really nice and everything, but he was totally blitzed.
Ultimate Warrior with 3 minutes to go.
Okay.
Yes, indeed.
Let's go this way. Warrior was asked to give a speech in Chicago at his anti-diversity position to DePaul, which, by the way, is one of the most liberal colleges in the Midwest, featuring a top 20 diverse student body ranking and a higher gay population than most other colleges in the Midwest. However, needless to say, you can sort of expect the student body reception he received, essentially, since it's the same speech he gave at UConn, which you think they kind of get
that
more.
entire speech, loved every second of it.
YouTube.com. You want to check that out.
I got to tell you, I know the guy who actually hired the Warrior to come to this event. I know the guy who picked him up at the airport to bring him to DePaul College to do this speech. I've known this guy for 5 years. He's a Hogan mark like me. We've traded tapes and everything. I know exactly what he was getting into. He's part of the Young Republicans Club. That's who he's speaking in front of again. And again, the Warrior speaking in front of a group of people who are supposed to be like-minded to him.
That's not really like-minded if you're at DePaul.
He kind of offended him.
Okay, kind of like that. The Warrior used the word queer in many instances, till finally an elderly man frantically screamed at him and said, "Stop using the bigot word of queer," and was escorted out of there. Warrior, of course, screamed back in defense of
He was
using
more like,
other
"Stop
words."
using this bigot word of queer."
No, he was more like that, but still, it was kind of entirely out of context. And at one point, Warrior was getting so mad that
oh my god,
his face is getting red with
James.
anger.
Easy.
He might have saw you right now, but still,
I can't do it now.
is he out of his mind? Like honestly, is Warrior like not that in tune with what he's saying most of the time? That maybe
His name is Warrior. His legal name is Warrior.
Never mind then. That takes
His
time.
kids' names are something Warrior. He says he's doing it because he wants to be a traditional value. Traditional for the 1700s.
Damn it, Tommy Warrior. You get over here.
And here's the ironic thing. He would never, speaking of morally, he would never be able to morally work for the WWE again due to his high sexual content. However, it's time to say bye-bye.
I can't believe this guy.
I can't believe he's still
we need
around.
more Warrior stories. He lives in Arizona. We got to find him.
He actually now lives in, I believe, New Mexico.
Damn it.
Right.
All right, wrap it up, guys. Take us home.
All right, for Ben Benya, James Walsh's, Brendan Brooks saying
Can I give a
sayonara.
quick plug?
Do a quick plug.
Quick.
We got 2 different shows coming up this weekend. We got Weekend Warriors of Wrestling with Missy Hyatt. We also have 3 Count Wrestling, who's going to have Natalie Neidhart, the daughter of Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Check that show out at WrestlingEpicenter.com. Thanks to the chat room. And we'll be back next week with more from the Wrestling Epicenter on the Blaze 1260.